Hello everyone, how are you all doing today? I'm here with Vespasian, who has been on my channel quite a hefty amount, and we're gonna just do a little bit of a discussion about Imperator Rome. The past year of development, we've got the dev diaries here, we've got the original 1.0.3 release version of the game open as well. We're just going to talk about the changes, what we like, what we dislike, and I guess maybe as well where we want to see the game go in the future.
Into space.
Poland isn't really a thing.
Imperator can into space. And yes, hello people.
So, how about you start us off and talk about what were your thoughts about Imperator on release then?
Well, I was that idiot at PDXCon who when they announced it, wearing the Vicky 3 t-shirt. And I was a little disappointed that it wasn't Vicky 3. But I was like, okay, Imperator, I love the time period. I can get behind this. And as we'll go through, the dev diaries, some of them I didn't agree with, some of them I just didn't like what they were going with. But I like the idea of this blend between all the games, taking the good aspects of each game. And I mean, it's the Roman time period. It's Diadochi. I'm gonna.
Yeah, you're a bit of a Diadochi fanboy.
I fucking love this time period. So I'm like, yeah, okay, no, this is gonna be good. It can't not be good, surely. And like running up to release, I was watching every single video any YouTuber was putting out about it, and
oh, thanks.
Yeah. I was watching your videos as well, when they got out.
That's why I'm saying thank you.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I mean, every single dev diary video you did, I was just soaking up all I could. And then when it came out, it's one of those, yeah.
I understand the sigh, yeah.
Yeah, the big thing for me, and it's the old Tide thing, was it just felt flat.
Yes, I would agree there. I mean, if I bring up my playlist for the developer diaries, right there. So, the first video I ever did for Imperator was for the 4th dev diary, which talked about the unit types. And the reason I was, I guess, kind of compelled in a way to make this video is because I didn't like what I saw. And well, the next week we had the pop mechanics, and I really didn't like what I saw, so I did another video. And then I kind of just got into the habit of making a video every week about the dev diaries. And, well, I liked the trade system, apparently. I called it a healthy trade system.
Well, when you go from EU4 to this trade system.
Oh, yeah, I'm not a big fan of the EU4 trade system. So I guess that sort of puts me on the right foot when I'm thinking of Imperators. But right now, trade is something that I really would like to see changed in the game. But it took until, the 7th dev diary, which is in the wrong order. That should be here for some... I don't know why it's in the wrong order. Ignore it. But there was... It took a while until there was nothing I saw that was like, I have nothing to complain about here. And that is a bit of a shame. Also, I have no idea why this is all in the wrong order. What is going on? Why is Dev Diary 6 down here?
I am. A year later. Get it fixed.
It's more than a year later at this point.
Oh, yeah, no, it is, yeah. No, yeah, it's the year anniversary today. Yeah.
Yeah.
A year and a half later.
So, I mean, it took a while until there was stuff that I had nothing to complain about. And then I think some of my biggest videos at this point was my dev diary videos. So I just kept doing them. And, I mean, some of them here, like dev diary number 14, where we learned that we only had one console to play with.
Ooh.
Yeah,
I want to get into that at some point.
That was a big one. But anyway, let's... do you want to go into some of the individual dev diaries then?
Yeah, I want to look at the very first one.
Released on the 28th of May 2018. That's quite. That's more than almost 2 years ago.
Wasn't that that was the Tuesday after PDXCon, wasn't it?
Oh mate, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it was the first Tuesday after PDXCon, or it could have been the week after. But
maybe I don't know.
yeah, because I tell you what, that was a good reveal they did though.
Yes,
Like,
yeah. I was in the crowd at that point, and it was like, please be Vicky 3, please be Vicky 3, please be Vicky 3, and he comes out and he's like, it's not Vicky 3. I was still holding out hope, even after people have been said, we can promise you it's not Vicky 3. I was like, you're saying that?
You say that, yeah.
But that might be the biggest misdirect. But then he came out, and I was as hyped as anyone else. The music was great. Johan looked fantastic in his toga. Yeah, it was just a lot of fun. So I was pretty much on board at that point. And then we had this Dev Diaries. What did you think of the first Dev Diary?
I liked it a lot because of, well, if we get down to the balance bit.
Yeah.
Second line down. The balance between CK2 and EU4/Vic2 should remain in Rome 2. And I like, he's called it Rome 2 there, but Rome is a fantastic mix between CK1 characters, EU3 diplomacy and war, and Vic1 parties, promises system, and population dynamic, and its own feature like barbaric migration and the best civil wars and paradox games. That got me hyped. Because I'm like, okay, so we're going to go through all of the paradox games, which each do their own thing, and we're going to take what they do, merge it into this overall grand strategy game. We're going to take characters from CK2, we're going to put them in there. We're going to take the diplomacy and war from EU3. We're going to take Vic1's parties and the pops, actual pops.
Yeah, that got me hyped very much. Knowing that we would have pops, I was like, yeah, I'm on board.
Yeah. That just there, I was just thinking this is going to be like the daddy of paradox games. It's going to combine everything. This was getting me hyped.
I remember from a very early time, and I still kind of believe it now, that at some point the way to play EU4 is going to be to load up a 1444 mod for Imperator, because the things that I am less enthusiastic about in EU4, namely mana, so monarch points, and the lack of population, and there's another thing that's completely slipping my mind. I remember there's always three things. Yeah, I forgot it. But pops and no mana, like that's fixed in Imperator. So I was like, that could totally work. Yeah. And I still think that, eventually we'll get a 1444 mod for Imperator. And I still think it's probably going to be pretty good when it eventually comes out. I mean, we've got close. There are some mods that change the time period to, I think it's like the 1200s.
Yeah, I've seen a few.
It's getting there. It's getting close. But yeah, for this first Dev Diary, just looking at the map specifically, this changed quite a lot between this Dev Diary and the actual release of the game. And honestly, I really like this map. It's very stylistic, and maybe a map mod is going to come out that brings it back to looking like this, because I really like it, even now.
Yeah, I can see why, but
I mean, it looks like
I just like. See, thing is, I play with the terrain and political map mode hybrid map. You just play with political.
Yes.
So I like seeing the terrain on the map.
But
so
every single series that I make for Imperator, I have to explain why I use that map. Every single time, because there's always somebody that is like complaining about it.
Yeah, you're in the minority. Yeah,
I'm fine with
hybrid
being a minority. There's nothing wrong with being a minority, Vespasian. Come on now.
It is when it comes to maps.
So things that they wanted to remove out of EU Rome and add into Imperator was removing characters as envoys. So I guess using them as diplomats and stuff. I kind of want that in Imperator now.
That would be great.
That would be really good. It'd give you something to do with a lot of characters. And yeah, you could use it primarily to get rid of people, but not if the mechanic was that they come back. You know, that might work.
And their personalities and the traits and everything would base on how well you improve relations with them. I mean,
Yeah.
you could send somebody as an envoy to another country to insult that country.
Yes. Or literally just saying, okay, I want you to go and insult this country, and he would leave for a few months. In a couple of months, you would like get a notification that he has now insulted them, and then he has to travel back. And maybe on the travel back, he gets ambushed.
That would be good. Oh, that would be good.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that they could still do with characters. Characters, by the way, is the other thing in EU4 that I want to see. That was the third thing: pops, no mana, and characters. But yeah, there was the second thing. They wanted to make omens more fun, and I guess I didn't play with EU Rome. I never played it, so I understand there was something to do with negative effects for calling an omen.
Yeah, I didn't play it until closer to the release when I was beginning to get hyped. I'm like, oh, I want to get a taste of this with EU Rome. And yeah, the omens, like, you wasn't always guaranteed to get a successful omen. It's not like, you know, oh, okay, right, I'm going to click this and I will get this bonus. You would get a negative.
Okay.
So.
Well, they've recently changed the omen system quite a lot with Archimedes, and I really like the new system. I think it works really well. There's a lot more that you as a player can do with it. I especially love deifying my characters, especially if I can name them Lambert first, because, you know, I'm just that kind of person. I like the way they've changed it since. And then finally they've got trade, which I mean, they say here it's an interesting and fun mechanic, and I guess, like say, looking back at my dev diary videos, I did think it looked really good. But now trade is like the thing that I hope they change the most.
I think it's because when it first came out, it was like, this is something new. This is something like we actually get physical. We get pick the physical trade good, and we get to import into a province, and then we get a bonus. Like, it was like, wow. But then after you've played with it for so long, you're like, nah, this is very. This needs a. It's not what we want.
Yeah,
it's not that.
The fact that trade in Imperator isn't theft, like it is in EU4, is a big plus sign still for me. You know, if you're trading with another country, they're getting something out of it as well. Yeah. You're both getting money, you're both getting, you know, your little modifiers. And so it's more like trade and less like straight up theft. So in that way, it is better, but it's still something I think needs to be maybe looked at.
Yeah, definitely.
So what other dev diaries are you wanting to look at then?
Well, if we go down in the order of release, you mentioned about the resources in the power system.
Oh, mana, yes. Mana, we must talk about it. It is the elephant in the room, as we all know from Imperator. Elephants are big, scary, broken, and completely unbalanced in every possible way whatsoever.
Don't remind me of the elephants, please.
Oh, the elephant spam is real. So yeah, Monarch points. This dev diary, it was the first one that got a negative reaction of any kind. Like, it still got more agrees than disagrees, and there was quite a lot of people in the comment section that were defending the decision to add Monarch points, but it was the first one to get a bit of a backlash. And I think the backlashes is something we probably should talk about as well, because there was quite a few dev diaries that did get a significant portion of people not liking them. And largely, I think, well, I don't want to say they were ignored, but it was kind of brushed off as this isn't indicative of the wider population that will buy and play this game. And I think maybe that was a mistake.
Yeah, like, it only looks like, okay, 117 people out of 185, that with 99 finding it helpful, out of the people on the forums, but then not everybody who reads it on the forums is logged in to then agree or disagree. And I could understand why they would go, okay, it's only 170, and it's only people on the forum. It's a very small percentage, but I think when it comes to a run up to release, maybe that is the minority you do need to listen to.
Yeah.
Because they will be the most vocal.
Also, have you noticed? No Byzantian. Thrace is orange, and Carthage owns Messenia in Sicily.
Oh wow, yeah.
That would have made our game
this
so much
sucks.
easier if I started with that province. Not gonna lie.
Oh, well, it took you a lot to
I mean, I still kicked your ass, so it's okay. But yeah, for Monarch points, that got changed with the Cicero patch.
Yes.
Which was, I feel, the patch for any of the Paradox games that has changed the game the most.
Oh, yeah,
like, it ripped Imperator to shreds and put it back together again, and it worked. It was a huge, huge improvement. And when I was making my biggest changes to the game video, I mean, I should have just put Cicero in first place. I put mana, but I should have just put Cicero in first place, because that was huge.
Yeah, when you show me the list, it's kind of like mana, like a lot of the things on your list was only doable because of the mana rework.
Yeah.
So, like, Cicero just encompasses all of that, and yeah. Now, I do remember when the big thing after it came out was, okay, right, we're going to redo mana. I remember thinking, yeah, okay, whatever. But I wasn't that fussed about mana. I knew it was bad, but to me, I could live with mana, and I wanted the game to feel more, more alive. And I was very much like, that was when I stopped playing Imperator for 3 months. I didn't play the beta of Cicero, and like the first time I actually then played the game again was with your multiplayer as Syracuse.
Yeah, no, don't remind me of that multiplayer.
But the massive rework that came about because of mana did breathe new life into the game, and I didn't think it would. I was a bit like, yeah, mana is like the big bogeyman of the game at the minute. Like,
it's a bogeyman of all Paradox games.
Yeah, but I was like, I don't know if this will be enough to get me interested in the game again. Because, like I said, I felt like the game was flat, and that was because of just all nations did feel kind of the same when they shouldn't really do. I know you can say, oh yeah, EU4, a lot of nations are the same, and they are. I will agree with you. But then when you go to this sort of time period, there was a lot of a tribe should feel completely different to a kingdom and a republic and all that. So I was a bit like, I don't know if they're going the right way, but boy was I wrong. Because getting rid of mana, it was so good.
Yeah. I mean, that wasn't the only thing that Cicero did either. It completely ripped apart the pop system and made pops. Well, look at my video for when I'm talking about pops. The video's titled Static Lifeless Pop Mechanics. That can't be... That's probably the most scathing title I have on all of my channel. And they stopped them from being static. They gave them life, and the pop mechanics now are really good. I mean, there's not really much I can complain about with the way the pops work right now. They fixed pops in Cicero.
Pops should have been like this. This is what pops should have been. And them being so static, and you spend mana to move a pop, and to promote a pop, and to change the culture of a pop, and change the religion. It's just no. You don't want to introduce pops and just make it more tedious, hard work for the player. You want to introduce pops and make them not something directly controlled by the player, and that's what they did with Cicero, and so good.
I mean, the other big change from Cicero is changing it to be cities and settlements instead of everything being a city, which
I said to you that was my biggest change in my opinion, because
that was huge as well. I mean, that came alongside food as well. But I mean, just going back to the pops a second, with mana, I want all citizens there. That now they're all citizens, and in Rome, I don't want any slaves in Rome. I now no longer have slaves in Rome. Like, oh my god, that was terrible. It was
I've
really
just
bad.
loaded into the game just to, have a look at it for the first time, and oh my god, this UI.
I'm not gonna showcase the convert and assimilate button because it's with a no, not gonna do that. But well, these Etruscans here, now they're Roman. They're all gonna be Roman. Done. That's it. It was bad. It was really, really quite bad. Yeah, and as Ngamade says in my chat, pops felt like tokens in a board game. Yes. And I think, mana itself feels very board gamey. And if they come out with an Imperator Rome board game, you know what? If you want to give tokens that we accrue every turn to, spend on various actions, that works in a board game. It just, it doesn't here.
Oh, convert currency into mana.
Oh god, I completely forgot about that.
Yeah.
Before the game came out, they had the dev clashes. You could convert power into currency as well.
Yeah.
And I remember there was it Kaiser Johann was playing Rome?
Yeah, he was.
And he was fighting against like the Greeks, and the entire time they were like, oh, well, I only spend my religious power on an omen every 5 years. So I've got a tank of like 5,000 religious power. I'm just going to sell my religious power to, pay for the upkeep of all my mercenaries, and then the war is going to drag on forever because of that. Yeah. That was a huge change to just get rid of mana just entirely. Just it can't be understated how big that is.
Kind of like, yeah, no, this isn't a good system. Like there and then they should have been thinking,
Well, I do remember it was, I think, Johan put a poll up on his Twitter asking about it, and the results were pretty decisive against mana. And then I think it was maybe less than a few days later, mana was like, okay, I did this. And like at the time I was thinking, well, getting rid of mana, fantastic. Like that is what I want. I voted that I wanted to get rid of it. He's gotten rid of it. But in the back of my mind I was thinking, he's put this system together in 2 days.
Yeah.
It can't be as good as it could be. But I really like political influence. I think it works really well. And I don't consider it mana, which is heresy to some people.
Well, yeah, I don't. Not going to get into that right now, but I'm just going to say I feel like it's becoming more of a mana with time because more and more stuff is being used for it. And I'm like, it's a lot of the game is now becoming, when do I get my political influence? How do I farm my political influence? And all that. But back to, Johan doing all that. I got to say, what he did last summer with this game, throughout the summer, like pretty much every other day or whatever, he's on Twitter, right? I'm doing it and this, and then Dev Diaries, like everybody else at Paradox is on vacation. Oh my god, I just had vacation and not holiday. I'm becoming a colonial.
Handing you tea bags.
And then he's there working, trying to make this game good. And this is something that he poured all this dev time into that he genuinely thought was going to be good, and he's there ripping it apart during the summer and taking away mana and putting this in. Like, absolute props to him for that.
Yeah, he did a really fantastic job. I think it is. I mean, it's hard to really understate or overstate, whichever one, just how much work he did. Like I had videos probably every 2 or 3 days with Johan has done this now, and look. So it was great for me. But yeah, he put so much time and effort into making this game better, and yeah, I think he definitely. I mean, Cicero, it's the biggest update to a game in Paradox history, and I think so. Like he did a lot. He did an absolute ton.
Yeah.
I mean, with Cicero, he wasn't the only one doing stuff. Of course, we had Arheo is the one that did the cities and settlements mechanic.
I love that man for that. Oh my god.
I mean, yeah, that was a fantastic change as well. completely changed the dynamic of the game for the better. I cannot imagine to play Imperator Rome without loyalty system like it was on release. I mean, we did have loyalty.
Yeah.
That was definitely still a thing on release. It was easy. It was much easier to manage back then.
Well, I remember playing as Egypt in the your first multiplayer and getting a stack of like 300,000 troops, a single army spawn with a disloyal guy, and then instant civil war ticking, and there was nothing I could do about it because I didn't have the manpower to spam enough light infantry to change the army, because it was done by like how much of the army was
purely down to you being bad.
Probably. It was, but like that happened, and that also happened to me in the Bactria campaign, where they would just spawn in with a fuck ton of troops, more troops than you could possibly then try and spam to.
Yeah, I do remember that. Imperator Twitter posted a showcase of your biggest achievements, and Johan responded with the Cicero rework. Yeah, I mean, absolutely that. I don't know his entire filmography of updates, but definitely I would say from what I know of him, that is probably the biggest one. I think it's got to be said, though, it's really quite brave to completely rip apart your game and change it in the way that he did. I'm going to ask this again. Could you do a video in which you tell us about your expectations for the game, what features you would like to be introduced, etc.? Yes. That's already in the works, don't worry.
How long is that video going
be?
to
Best Paradox updates. Cicero, Megacorp, Common Sense for EU4. I'm going to go with Cicero, Art of War, and the Old Gods for CK2. That's mine.
Yeah, I can't really comment on that too much because I wasn't there for a lot of the big updates for EU4 and CK2. So I don't really know what to say on that. I would say on the Megacorp one, it did break the game for like a year.
It was more like 3 months.
But it was a good update, that one.
Yeah.
And that's very similar to the Cicero update where it reshaped a large portion of the game.
The Apocalypse update was big as well. That changed it from being the 3 types of FTL to just hyperlanes.
Yeah.
And I'm in favor of that. I know, heresy. Anyway, let's get back to Imperator.
Yeah. It's Imperator's birthday. We can't be talking about his older brother.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so there are the other dev diaries you want to look at. We have this one here about... What's this one about again? Pops? I guess we've kind of spoken about Pops already, though.
Yeah. We're talking a little bit about that.
Yeah, we're just getting ahead of ourselves, really.
Characters, trade systems, policy. Maybe unit abilities. What's this one? Is this
unit abilities?
Oh right, no, that's just the abilities. I didn't know if that was going to be tactics.
I mean, you could just say there's so many dev diaries, and I guess at some point you kind of think that. I mean, when they start going over the political situation at the start of the game, it's like that's when they're sort of running out of things to show you. But then after that, we got, of course, population movement and colonization, and how battles work. And I think as well, it's got to be said, battles changed between the first dev diary and release. Battles got a really big change. Because on release, on the first one, when we're talking about, I think it maybe is unit abilities. No, unit types. And I think they go over a little bit about how combat works, and it's different. It's maybe not that one. Maybe it is unit abilities.
Oh yeah, no, it just talks about those.
But they go over and change the way that combat works quite a lot before release.
Land combat and tactics, 22nd of October. Dev Diary 21.
21. That'll be it.
Combat in Imperator. Oh, back when it used to be cities. I still haven't. I completely forgot. I mean, I still call them provinces, but I completely forgot that every single territory was a city.
Oh yeah, that's what Arheo just completely changed.
Yeah, I just forgot that's what they were all called.
Oh,
Cities. And...
there we go. If you go on to that one from the 22nd of October, there's 2 lines. The archers are behind the infantry. And it looks like it's just straight up a copy of sort of EU4's system. Cav on the flanks, infantry and stuff in the center, and archers behind. And that definitely changed. I think I remember doing a video about this saying that I didn't quite like it, or maybe it was like the first dev diary I did. I had a thing saying I didn't quite like it. This would be my suggestion for a combat rework, and it did get reworked. It's not exactly what I said, but it was closer, so I'm gonna take 100% the credit for that. You're welcome. But yeah, combat changed quite a hefty amount. Like going from 2 lines to 1 is not what I suggested. I actually wanted 3 lines, but you know, it works, I guess.
Still very EU4.
It is, and I do think. I mean, we're gonna have the Summer of War, or is it the Autumn of War?
Autumn of War. Yeah.
Autumn of War is gonna come in the autumn after Menander, and yeah, that's promising to change the combat. I hope, maybe the way that manpower is generated as well. That's obviously coming in the future.
Yeah. But yeah, here if you are firing from the back line, you are basically at 50% efficiency. That's directly ripped from EU4 with the cannons, because don't the cannons do less damage at the back row and then they do double damage on the front row?
Also, worth pointing out that here we've got offensive tactics and defensive tactics. For every army, you can determine 1 offensive and 1 defensive tactic, and then depending on who is the attacker and defender is which one you choose.
I like that.
Honestly, I kind of do as well.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
There's some really interesting stuff here. I kind of like this system. I need to go back and look at my video on this dev diary, because did I like it when it was put out? Because this, I prefer to the current system of just choosing a tactic.
See, I do like that the new system, how much extra modifier you get is based on your composition of your army and if it fits that tactic.
Yeah.
I quite like that, but then I also do like this. Okay, this is the offensive one and this is your defensive one.
I don't think it was like that on release, so I think the rework came before release.
Yeah. Pretty sure it did.
It's certainly an interesting system. I wouldn't mind seeing how that played out.
Also, withdraw, both sides take minus 25% casualties.
Yeah, that's really good. It's like if you don't really want to fight, then just... I mean, what would happen if... Oh no, because it'd be defensive tactics, right? Only the defender can choose this.
Yeah.
I was going to say, what if both choose that? Although I guess probing attack, both sides take 25% less casualties. The other guy says withdraw. I mean, you're going to... It's a lot more interesting, I think. I quite like that. I want to see that back in.
Yeah, definitely some form of that.
Yeah, but I've still got ideas for a combat rework that I'm probably going to do a video on at some point. I've got scripts for everything flying around here.
Yeah, know the feel.
Yeah, but we have obviously release came, and one could say that the reception wasn't amazing.
No. It was... yeah, but not amazing is probably saying it a bit lightly.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was down to... Well, not a lot of it. Where's the diplomatic stance to take here, and what's the closest thing to actual truth? Right. For the Steam reviews, I think a lot of it was influenced by certain big names panning it in their videos. I'll put it that way. yes, the game did sort of deserve some negative reviews, but I think it got way more negative reviews than it deserved, purely because of a bandwagon that appeared. Because, I mean, I gave it a positive review on release, but that was honestly more a case of it didn't deserve the absolute panning that it got, so I wanted to balance it a little bit. But yeah, there was a couple of videos in particular that were really scathing and going over the top with it as well, in my opinion. But I don't know, maybe people agreed with the videos, and but those videos blew up, and you know, we got a very heavily downvoted game.
But we got 1.2 because of it.
We did, and I think
because 1.1 was already in the works before release.
Yes,
I believe I hear them saying. So
no,
1.2
I
was
know
a
that
true
for sure.
First update after release, and it directly was addressing a lot of the complaints.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, if you remember, navies in this version were terrible. We had one kind of ship and no tactics.
Because I remember dominating the Mediterranean in Egypt with them.
Oh, I remember kicking your ass when you were Egypt as well, so...
Yeah, that was after the game had finished and all my apples and babies.
Yeah. Anyway. But yeah, Pompey came out and fixed the naval situation. But with regards to the release and the reception, in a way I think it's a good thing that it got panned so heavily. Because if it didn't, then what the game would be now would be an evolution of Imperator on release, rather than the revolution that we got. Because that's sort of how an accurate way of saying the game. Because, yeah, I mean...
The revolution didn't go too far, in my opinion, though. Should continue.
I mean, it is continuing. That's kind of what we've got. None of the updates have been as big as Cicero, but I don't think it's really fair to expect that they do. I mean, how many hours did Johan code at home to bring us that? Because a lot of that was done on his free time when everyone else was on summer holidays.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Cicero was a huge update. And we just straight up wouldn't have gotten Cicero if the results, if the reviews had been mixed. So yeah, Swipier, is that your name? The game would be dead if it wasn't received so badly by the Paradox player base. And I do kind of, I wouldn't say dead, but it would certainly not be it wouldn't have gotten the updates that it had. It wouldn't have gotten the Cicero update, and it would have just dripped away players until, it would have been dead in the water. So I guess, no, you're right there. Without the negative backlash, it wouldn't be half the game that it is today. So, yeah, it's a good thing they got panned, even if, in my opinion, it didn't deserve that level of panning. Tiger King says there, no, the Steam review measure how many people thought it was good, not how many people thought. Right, okay. I don't think that it's an insane harebrained theory that it was a bandwagon, right? I simply don't agree with that. Because a lot of people would not have made any review, positive or negative, without that push in that direction. I will stand by there being a bandwagon. Whether the bandwagon deserves to be there or not is entirely a different conversation. But the bandwagon was there. And a lot of the reviews on Steam were people who hadn't played the game and they're just, saying that it's shit because they've seen their favorite YouTuber say it was shit. And they want to be part of that community that shits on the game. The bandwagon exists. This is undeniable, in my opinion. But if you disagree, then whatever. It's over now. That bandwagon, it's left the cart, it's left the station, it's gone.
Peter Stone saying the most frustrating critique to me was this is just EU Rome 2, said by people who only played EU Rome in excitement from Imperator anyway. But that was basically what it was, and that was kind of when we read in the vision of the Dev Diary, that's what they were going for. Like, even though it's called Imperator Rome, it was always going to be the successor to EU Rome. And a lot of the stuff is directly taken from EU Rome.
Yes, but at the same time, there was a lot of that. There was a lot of people who didn't know EU Rome and were saying that it was just the same.
I would agree. Like, some people would, oh yeah, because certain YouTubers said it or whatever. But
yeah,
it was definitely, the critique was still very valid in my opinion. It was very valid.
As someone who didn't play EU Rome at all, I can't say. But also, can you tell how much of an appeasing stance we're being when trying not to name any names?
I think we should go on to bellicose stance.
No, I'm not interested in that. I'll go mercantile. Just give me your money. But yeah, I like to say I never played EU Rome. I can't really comment on whether it's the same or not. It looks different looking at screenshots, but that's very surface level and doesn't really count. But yeah, I mean maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. It was a culmination of people's dissatisfaction with some other Paradox games like Mana and EU4. Yeah, I'd agree with that as well.
Yeah, I'd also say that it was definitely like the third strike in a way, because a lot of people weren't happy with the Hoi 4 and the Stellaris release builds. Like, I'm not too sure on the Stellaris one, but I definitely know Hoi wasn't received that well, and like the two DLCs after Hoi were just they weren't going well, and then that's why they ended up giving a free DLC for the kernel edition of the game and everything. And I do feel that then when Imperator came out, and a lot of people are going, oh yeah, no, it's another bad release, that kind of then just brought it all to the front. Like, oh, okay, here we go.
See, the YouTubers that I mostly followed back when those came out were, it was mostly Arumba. And I know he didn't like either of the games. But I don't really remember my thought. I remember liking Stellaris, but thinking it was maybe a bit shallow. And with Hoi, I just never really got into at all. So I don't think I was in that camp of hating on Paradox at the time.
Yeah.
Because, I just felt that these games just aren't for me. End of story. And Stellaris, to its credit, has improved massively as well. To the point where I think it's like my second favourite Paradox game right now.
Whether the hate was the hate of and the Paradox does bad releases was deserved or not, I still feel like it festered a lot for Imperator Rome.
Yeah,
if Imperator came before them, I don't know if it would have been as hard hit as it was.
No, I think I'd agree with that. Yeah, there was certainly a lot more anger in the dissatisfaction.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can definitely see that being the case. But how about we talk about another dev diary? Which one do you want to go on to? Do you want to start talking about the things in some of the updates, or is there something in the base game you want to look at?
Unsure. What's a really big meaty thing to talk about?
We sort of went over everything in Cicero already.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these weren't dev diaries here. These two came out on the same day. These two came out the day after. This one came out the day after. The day after. Like, all of...
Yeah, that was crazy.
All of these in the space of 4 days. And I don't know if there's only 30 days in June. I don't remember that rhyme. But came out on the 30th of June. This one, 29th. All of these came out within like a week. It was really good for my channel, don't get me wrong. But yeah, just the level that that guy went to is just crazy, crazy huge.
Maybe missions.
Oh, now that's going to be a controversial one, I think.
And I think we both sit on two sides of this as well.
I think we do, yeah.
So, the very first missions one, Punic War.
Well, I think I'm gonna start us off because when I was at ParadoxCon, I was speaking with Arheo about the mission system, and he said that the system itself is incredibly powerful in the way that it can dynamically choose different regions and do different things in that way. And I think that definitely is starting to come to the fore as like the earliest missions are obviously coded by people who don't have a huge amount of experience with the system because it's brand new. But I think as they're getting more and more comfortable with using the mission system, just like they are in EU4 as well, they've just gotten better and better over time. Some of the early missions, the generic ones are definitely generic, and the Roman ones they're basically the same generic missions just with a Roman tint. But I think they're getting a lot better. Like the ones for the Greek colonies in the Black Sea that we got with Archimedes. Was it? Or was it? Yeah, it was with Archimedes.
It came out with Archimedes, yeah.
That's actually really good. It's a lot of fun. So I'm okay with it. I think I like the mission system. Why do you not like it?
See, to me, right, I think it all comes back to Hearts of Iron 4. Because Hearts of Iron 4, that's when you got the focus trees. And you would click a button, 70 days would go by, you would get a bonus at the end. It would be some research bonuses, it would be some claims, it would be something with the government. And eventually that evolved down the way. And I think I didn't like it at the start of Hearts of Iron. A lot of my issues of Hearts of Iron do come from that, but I do think it works there. And then EU4 took the system. And EU4 were like, oh, we're going to do mission trees now. And it's going to be, your game spans 400 years, but we're going to do a mission tree with 30 missions in which it's going to give you a PU here. It's going to give you mana here. It's going to give you 20% morale here. And it just felt very boring, overpowered, and just kind of uninspired to me. And eventually, a lot of it culminated in Golden Century. You would get a DLC, which would be basically a mission tree pack with a few little extras.
Extras? Do you mean 3 little buttons?
Yes. I mean, they're going to take barrage for cannons, rework it to be barrage for ships. And instead of costing 50 military mana, it costs 50 diplo mana. And we're going to put that in because most of the meat for the DLC is with the mission tree, which is overpowered, and you get PUs on basically every country in Europe and Spain for that one. And then they said they're going to do it for Imperator, and I thought, here we go. I just didn't like the idea of this game that I personally still felt was going places. 1.2 blew my mind. It was amazing. I really liked it. And I thought, okay, yeah, no, this is going to go places. We've just got 1.2. We've reworked mana. We've reworked pops and everything. Where are we going to go from here? How are they going to make countries now begin to feel more unique, more different throughout the world for the cultures and everything? And then we got mission trees, and I thought, please don't be that this is the way they're going to go to make countries feel unique. You're going to click a button. You're going to try and get some prerequisites, to click another button, to then get a bonus, to then do more prerequisites. And then they're going to sell that in a DLC with a couple of little extra buttons. And I just didn't want Imperator to become what I didn't like about EU4 DLCs, and what I didn't really like a lot about Imperator DLCs, and to me, it has become that. I get the appeal of mission trees. It can focus your gameplay a lot. Like, okay, I'm going to put the... Like, I use the mission trees in our co-op multiplayer, but a lot of the time in single player, I forget about them.
I do end up forgetting about them quite a lot as well.
I feel, personally, that it's just a wasted dev time. That they're doing, like, instead of doing a mission tree for a nation, like one particular nation you're doing a mission tree for, why don't you just make a new government mechanic, or just something to better represent that nation, like Rome? Instead of doing a unique mission tree, do a mechanic to represent the Italian allies and how they were getting the manpower from that. And that's what I was wanting more. I don't mind the mission trees that encompass an entire like regional culture, like the ones that you mentioned with the Black Sea, Greek city-states, and then you've got the ones for the city-states in the Western Mediterranean. They're okay and everything, but to me, I just don't want the appeal of a certain country to be they have this mission tree. That's not what I like about Paradox games. I like Paradox games for the unique mechanics for different nations, and how, you play CK2, it's a completely different game because it's got really in-depth characters. And I don't want it to be, okay, this is another Paradox game set in this era, and you get this style mission trees. Oh, now you got this one set in this era with these mission trees. Just, yeah. I'm ranty.
No, it's great. It means I don't have to talk. But with the mission trees in EU4, I can definitely see where you're coming from with that. With the multiplayer we did, where I played as Aragon, the mission trees were basically focusing me on forming the Roman Empire. Like, I had mission trees for France, all of Spain, Africa. I think I even had some going into Greece and Italy. Like, they were very overpowered, especially for the PUs. I definitely agree there. I don't think there's anything quite so overpowered in any of the Imperator mission trees, but I do understand the fear that they would become that. They're not there yet, and I hope they don't get there at all, of course. I do like them just for the flavor that they add, and I hope that's sort of how they stay. But right now, like I said, I think the strongest part of the mission trees, or the most overpowered part of the mission trees, is definitely the Roman Colonia. But at the same time, that is sort of kind of what they did. And you could probably implement the Colonia in the game without mission trees, but this definitely adds a bit of flavor to it.
Because the Greek missions have the settle with the tradition where you can settle, I think it's 3,000 troops for one pop, which is basically what the Romans did with the veterans, which the mission tree represents. In a way,
that's a fair point.
So I understand why people like them. Like I say, I don't mind the ones that are like encompass a region or a culture. But when they're like, the big selling point is we have a mission tree for Athens. It's like, okay, I'm going to play that nation once, I'm going to play that mission once, and then...
Yeah, I do think that... other than Rome, which everyone's going to play multiple times, because, let's be fair, it's Rome.
Yeah.
The smaller countries probably shouldn't get their own individual ones, because, you're just going to be playing them once. And you've experienced the mission tree now, why go back to it? I get that. Wouldn't it be more interesting if the missions were given by different families? Yeah, you've watched Republic of Play then, haven't you? Because that's something that he's said a few times. If all the different families were like, this is what we want you to do, and that all your great families would give you these missions, and you could choose one to do, make them very happy, piss off the other guys, That's an interesting system as well. I see it working a lot better with republics and the parties than with families, but I could definitely see
Although,
that being fun.
you know, when we were talking about how make governors be more prominent in a nation,
Yeah.
wouldn't it be cool if governors could issue missions to you? Like, oh, I feel like I'm being neglected. Can you build these
As
buildings
long
in
as
my
you
region?
reword it to be called requests, because you're my governor, you are my subordinate, you are not giving me a damn mission.
Yeah, like if it was them requesting, and then you come to and you have great families who have certain holdings in certain areas, and then they wish to become, like, say, oh, I want to be the governorship. I want the governorship of this area, and then because all my holdings are here, and then if you go over to republics and you have, oh, the mercantile faction would like you to build some marketplaces here, and there can be ones that you could ignore.
Yeah.
You don't have to do them, but they might give you a small bonus. If they did them that way, where it wasn't this tree and you fill out this record, if it felt a bit more like that, because a lot of them, like the Pearl of Italia, are kind of that. Build this here and build this here, and then you get this big bonus. I think if they did it that way, I wouldn't be as
The ones
hostile to the
for
system.
the Pearl missions as well, like embellishing your country, those are sort of similar to that as well. But people really hate those missions.
Yeah,
And there are some
I don't
reasons
say
why I
nothing, but no.
definitely see why. Shipyards of Sias here, if you've got the dev diary open. I know that this one is build 2 foundries in this territory. And foundries, when this was released, they weren't very good buildings. Expand trade was getting marketplaces. Marketplaces are not so good. So I can definitely see why people didn't like these very much.
Yeah.
But that's not indicative of the mission tree as a whole. It's like just an individual mission within it is a bit iffy.
Yeah. Mm.
I want the automated sector system from Stellaris for governors. I give you money, you build stuff for me. I'm not going to comment on what I want for that because the script is half written. So look out for that because I've got ideas. But yeah, there is a lot that can be done to improve it further, and I think as time goes on, they're getting better at using the mission tree system to make better ones, and I think it's kind of promising where they're going with it. And it doesn't look like it's going to turn into EU4's overpoweredness, so I'm optimistic, and maybe you're just a bit more of a pessimist than I am.
Yeah.
The idea is right, they just need to be either more flexible, like just build X builds of any type, or actually make you do things that you're not annoyed with. I guess. Although, I would say that if the construct building requirements weren't to construct bad buildings, or if there were no bad buildings, that would help a lot.
Yeah, buildings could do a pretty cool rework.
Yeah.
Make every building have a positive and a negative.
I'm not going to comment on that either because the script is it's not written at all yet, but there's ideas ready to be written. I've got a lot of ideas to how I would love to see Imperator go in the future. Some more realistic than others. Some at the level of Cicero reworks, and some less so. But I quite enjoy theory crafting what the game could become in the future. That's a lot of fun to me.
I think Imperator is a game that I have theory crafted the most.
Yeah,
And I don't know what that really says.
I think it says a couple of things. The first being that it has massive potential. And I think that is something that I was thinking, potential is the best word for it back when it released. Because, yeah, the game was pretty shallow and all of what we've just said over the past hour on release. But it also had huge potential. And I think, again, going back to Cicero, it was like, oh, so this game not only has potential, but can actually achieve that potential. Okay, I'm back on board. Like, it has the potential to reach its potential. How lovely.
Yeah.
So, other things that came with the Punic Wars and Livy, Statesmanship. When this first came out, I was... Oh, I mean, I didn't understand it at first. I had to go to PDXCon and, like, talk about it, because I did not get it. Now, what do you think about Statesmanship? Because it's something that I kind of ignore.
Yeah, it is definitely something that 9 times out of 10 I ignore. I like the idea of it, but overall I feel like it's just a nerf to officers. Because the bonuses you would get from your government officers were awesome. And now there's just been a huge nerf to it. And unless I'm absolutely try hard in my balls off for an achievement that is indicative of me getting the maximum out of everything, I ignore statesmanship. So...
most of it doesn't gel very well with great families being scorned. That is the biggest reason for me choosing somebody over someone else when it comes to who I put in my office. Is this family scorned, and should I put this guy in charge because of that? Otherwise, it's generally just put the best guy in charge and he'll get the statesmanship eventually.
Yeah. As long as he's hasn't got a corruption when you put him in his governorship.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you always look for the best stat. Unless you want to get your family happy, or he's got corruption.
The game doesn't help itself in that regard by putting the person with the best stat at the top of the list. And especially if you're playing multiplayer, you're time limited. You're not going to, be looking at all the stats, working out who's literally the best possible person for the job. You're going to be like, okay, corruption, no. That guy's got high stats, yes, he's in, done. It's a nice mechanic, but it's very much... It's... Yeah, like Tiger King says there, it's too punishing, and it is too ignorable.
I mean, the fact that you only get at maximum statesmanship, which is dependent on their traits, pretty hard to get, but it's 100%. It's like, that's the maximum. So it's... Like, if it gave you more special character bonus, then what do you call it? Stat? If it gave you a higher stat for having higher statesmanship, and as Tiger King said, 50% to 150%, then I guess it could be more useful, because then, especially because I find mid to late game, you do get a lot of trash characters.
Oh yes, you definitely do.
Now, outside of a character rework, which I would like to see and have ideas on, but I think that if you could get somebody who has 10 martial, and if they have a 100% statesmanship, they accounted for 15 martial. Or if you had somebody, at 5 martial, and then they would get Paradox Mass, put that round it down, and probably round it down to 7. Okay, maybe it might be too powerful at 150%, but that could probably make it more desirable.
Yeah, the fact that at 0 statesmanship you get 0 bonuses whatsoever is a little bit of an issue. But as I was saying there, my biggest worry about when I'm putting governors in charge, or when I'm putting statesmen or officers in charge, is, are they a great family? And that's something we haven't touched on yet, is the family rework.
The family change.
That was another massively controversial change.
Yeah.
That I am
when I was just looking
100% on board with. I love this change, although it is a little bit... I mean, The thing that I think is broken is not with the great families, but with characters in general. With great families, I don't have any problems with them.
Now,
are you different? Do you have issues with?
I would like it would be cool if they had like great families as they are now. I like, but it would be cool if you had great families. You had your 4 or 5, depending on your country size. Great families, and then you had minor families, and you could get more of a ebb and flow between minor and great families. Instead of having minor characters, you would have a separate tab with minor families on.
There's certainly enough space on that tab for show great families and a tab for show minor families, for sure.
I feel that would solve the issue with a lot of countries just running out of characters. Especially ones to make. If you had more, like you have 5 great families and you have 10 minor families, and then the minor families are trying to petition you to get jobs, and if you're giving them jobs and they're beginning to get influence, and
they could overtake,
they can usurp, and then that's going to piss off one of your great families, and then you could go into a whole aspect of where you could intertwine that with civil wars and stuff, where you don't need so much power base. Like if a great family feels like they are getting absolutely fucked, whether they got the power base or not, they're going to want to, be like, no, we're not having this, and try and do something about it.
I am on board with that system a lot. It's actually something that I did have in my video when I did a video on this rework, is that I wish there was a way for, or I thought there was going to be a way for minor families to usurp the great families. And that kind of didn't materialize. And other than some specific events that can happen, it just didn't happen. I thought that was a pretty big shame. Like, as Rome, you start with 3 great families. You get a 4th one as soon as you kill Etruria, which happens very, very quickly. So you get to choose a new great family almost immediately as soon as this game starts. And then you're locked into those 4 until you become a great power at like 500 cities or 500 territories. And that's a bit of a no. I just no. I mean, it didn't scratch the particular family itch for me. I mean, I have no problems with the great families as they work. I just wish that the minor families worked a bit differently.
Yeah, definitely having minor families instead of minor families, make them feel more like, instead of it's just an individual person, like they were an actual unit, like an actual power in your nation. They're minor, but they can do stuff. That would just be so cool, and you could just add so much more into it. And I feel maybe Imperator is scared of going too much into characters.
Yeah, it doesn't want to be CK. Or
I feel if you add characters, you need to make them intertwined with your country. Make them a good mechanic that you enjoy. I feel that characters are very, very bland. And we'll probably end up getting onto the loyalty rework. And
that's another one we disagree on. Yeah.
Well, see, we disagree, but I think we disagree on a different thing.
Probably.
On that one. But I just feel that characters are very, very bland in the game, and I was talking about this in your Discord the other day whenever it was, that Rome 1, I feel more attached to my characters in Rome 1, as in Total War Rome 1, than I do in this game, because they would get far more traits, they would actually develop personalities. If you left somebody to be, in a city to be the governor that had wine, he would end up becoming a drunken. And, if somebody had this good stat in this, they would end up becoming the Sextus the Orator, I believe Light was saying. And they could also die in battle. And I feel that would be a good thing if, your characters, your general that's leading an army, you could say, okay, I want this guy, he's a high marshal, he's brave. Troops would expect him to lead from the front line. Click that he will lead from the front line, gives them a morale boost, but has a chance of him getting injured or killed. And if they had more risk to the characters, but far more traits, more personality, have the traits impact what they do, it would go a long way. Because to me, great families, I like the idea. It cleans up the UI a lot from what I'm looking at the minute.
Oh yeah, I just scrolled through that families list. It's unusable.
but they're still just... It's just a stat to me. I look to see if they've got corruption, loyalty, and then the stat. If they've got high corruption, not putting them in the governorship. If they've got low loyalty, not giving them the command of an army or anything. Other than that, high stat.
Yeah.
And the fact that a lot of jobs only require one stat to be good. Like, a governorship requires only finesse. It should require all of them, and in different bonuses for that. And it shouldn't be, oh, you get 10% for one, and, that scales up. It should be, if he's low, it's a negative. Yeah. I feel like I'm rambling a bit with this, but characters just don't... And that's a big thing with the great families. They just don't feel alive. They just feel like a modifier.
I mean, I'm finding it hard to disagree with that. Because I definitely see where you're coming from. For sure. I would like to see characters be used for more things. Like we mentioned earlier about having them be what you use to talk to other countries. You have to physically send out a character to go over there and do something. There is I would love to rework the way that governorships work. And that would make characters a lot more impactful and in many different ways. But yeah, having to give more of a shit about your characters is something that the Great Family's definitely made a stride towards, but it definitely stopped short. I don't think that's down to the families themselves, though. I think that's a inherent thing with the characters themselves.
Yeah, like you saying about like seeing them as envoys, like it'd be so cool if you weren't you weren't looking properly. You just click this guy to send him to Egypt as Rome to envoy to smooth over relations, improve relations basically, instead of spending mana for it. And he had a trait. The trait was drunk. You didn't see the trait. You just sent him because he had a higher charisma, and that was going to improve it higher and quicker. But because he's a drunk, he made a fool of himself, and because of that, the Egyptians have taken it as an insult, and it's actually backfired.
Yeah,
Is that too deep for Imperator? For Imperator's character system, because I would like something like that.
They added a lot of those kinds of events in the event thing underneath the outliner, which I disagree with that thing existing. I think all of those events should just be events.
Yeah, it's taken me a lot to train myself to not just look at the top of the screen, but to look at the side of it as well, because every Power-Ups game you look at the top.
Yes. But there's a lot of those kinds of events in them. They have a lot of character flavor, and I think hiding them away in the side is definitely a mistake, because there are some really quite interesting things in there that do give you more of an appreciation for the characters. And I think just having those be more front and center, like instead of them timing out and you automatically choosing the top one because you just didn't look in that direction, having them be something that pops up and you can't ignore it because it's in the middle of your screen saying, by the way, this character did these things and these things. How do you want to deal with this? These are your options. These are the things that will happen if you choose one of these options. Do that. There's a lot of the events that appear down there based purely on how well of a statesman they are, how much statesmanship they have. And that's just in a little bit of text at the bottom of the flavor text in that event when you click on it. If you haven't trained yourself to click on these things, you're never going to see them, and you're never going to notice that actually high statesmanship does quite a lot, because you get the really good events when you have people with high statesmanship, and you get the really shit ones when you have people with low statesmanship. But it's never seen.
Yeah.
Because no one clicks there. No one looks there.
And when you click there, you see, okay, 3 stability, okay, cool, thanks.
Yes.
I get this, or I get tax harvest, which is, 2,000 ducats. Okay, cool, thanks.
This one, I need to spend 18 ducats and I get 6 stability. That's an auto pick.
Yeah.
That you train yourself to think more about the modifiers, and Honestly, thinking about it, that's a problem with all Paradox games that have events, which is all of them. That after a couple of plays, you know the event. You read what the name of your option is, and you know immediately on this event when it pops up, I'm going to click this one because this one's bonuses and the changes that this makes are better. And that's something that is a problem with all Paradox games. I don't know of a way of fixing that. You can't force people to read your flavor events.
No, and like,
And if they don't do anything, people would complain that it's just an event telling me about nothing happening, and they'll just click away, or they'll turn off those events, or something.
Yeah, but that's definitely an issue with the fact you play a Paradox game, you play 1 hour, you play 2 hours, oops, you've just done 1,000. And you know everything, you know what event is what, and I think that's just gonna... You can't really do anything to solve that, I think, because once you play a Paradox game so much, you're just gonna know what the events are.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't really think there is anything with that, but
hiding them away is certainly not the way to go about it.
I like the idea of it, like, okay, these are minor events. We don't want it to pop up. You're in the middle of a war.
Mate, some of these events give you tons of stability.
Some of the events,
tons of money. They shouldn't be hidden away. I need this pop-up. I need to see it, because it's going to give me $2,000. That'll fund the war that I'm currently waging. I need this event. But I'm busy looking at a war, so I missed it. And now I've lost the war. Thanks. CK3's toast system looks like it's a good solution to this. Banners that pop up with a trait change. That could work. I mean, there needs to be more in the way of traits.
Yeah.
And honestly,
I would like to see these martial, finesse, charisma, and zeal stats. The base, I would like to see them lower, and more traits that impact these. And you can get traits really quickly, and you can lose traits really quickly. And depending on how your character is, he's gaining or losing these traits. And then you've got this martial, finesse, charisma, and zeal in flux, and you are gaining traits, you are losing traits. Someone who is born a 9 martial might not be a 9 martial after losing a few battles.
I mean, you can gain stuff like the Conqueror and Aggressive trait, but that's very different from what you're saying. It's related, but different.
Yeah. Like, if you send some general into a battle and he keeps losing the battles and he keeps losing a lot of men, he gets the Butcher trait. Gives him low morale for his army or something.
Yeah.
Because men are just... No, we're not having this guy lead us into a battle. Just stuff like that. But then I always come back to the thing of, but then am I making this game too much like CK2 with the characters? But I feel if you're going to put characters into a game, you kind of need to go all the way and not have it just be there.
I do think maybe it was the things that Imperator does worse than the games that it's taking inspiration from. It's like, it's because it didn't go all the way and it didn't expand upon what made those things great. It was like, oh, we'll just have a little bit of this. I think no you say about characters, but I think no greater example of that is the macro builder. No templates at all. What does this marketplace do? I don't know. What will it affect? I don't know. It takes inspiration from EU4 for the macro builder and doesn't run with it. And I know this, I'm looking at release, and they have improved that a lot, but still, there's no templates.
Still no goddamn template. It's terrible in multiplayer.
Yeah, I mean, when you're time limited and the game is always running, it's not ideal.
But then again, you know what, I feel like it could be a good a thing with a template.
Yes. Which I'm sure you won't go into because you've got ideas there going into a video, right?
That involves making a video and
just
I just
do
give the
it.
ideas. have you make the video.
Yeah, that's it. Outsourcing your video needs to me. I'll get the views. It's all right. You're not getting any of the
You
profits
love
from it, though.
Edison. You know.
But yeah, there's things that they could do to improve it. What else came out of the Punic Wars and Livy, though? Other than missions, they've got families, statesmanship. Food? Was that in Livy?
Food was a 1.2
Well,
introduction.
Yeah, we had them
the
coming
army.
in with the way that the changes happened to cities and settlements. It was the territory redesign.
Yeah. But
Food was a huge change. And then
Food
for
was-
armies, they came out with
yeah.
Livy, not Livy.
Punic was Livy, yeah. Yeah, it came out of Livy.
Does it say this here? Because I'm missing. I can't see it. Oh, was that reinforcements, Dev Diary?
Yeah, I believe it's reinforcements, yeah. Yeah. It's reinforcements.
Let's talk about food in general, like specifically for the way that armies work, though.
Okay, right. For armies.
I think we've both got opinions on this, and we sort of line up a lot more than other ways.
Makes a change.
Yeah. Go on then.
Yeah,
you can start us off then.
Food? I thought food was going to be amazing. I was thinking, alright, here we go. We're going to actually have sieges where the attacker, without having to fight a battle, could lose the siege. If he runs out of food, if he isn't prepared well enough, you know, like it'll happen a lot of times, he's going to lose. Siege. And we're going to have actual supply lines in a way, and we're going to, you know, be consuming food, and we can't spend a long time in hostile territory. We're going to have to resupply, and food just turned out to be
the removal of attrition.
Let's not have attrition anymore.
Yeah. It led to a big problem with everyone having all of the manpower, which they've attempted to fix by reducing the amount of manpower you get.
Yeah.
And while I do think reducing the amount of manpower you get is something that should be done, that it didn't fix why people had too much manpower. That was people earning too much manpower wasn't the reason people had too much manpower, which is strange, but it's true.
Because you would go into a country, and instead of losing 20,000 men to manpower and 20,000 men to battles, you would lose 20,000 men to battles.
Yeah.
Not 20,000 men to 20,000 men to attrition and 20,000 to battles. Like, as I said to you with our very first head-to-head, Roman Carthage, my big thing in that was, how can I take Italy before I run out of manpower? How can I do it in the most cost-effective way in manpower? Because I could be sat on a siege, and I could lose so much manpower just sat on that siege. And then the second time we did the head-to-head, didn't give a shit. Just waltzed in with fucking armies, siege here, conquered Italy in, like, no time. Because I just didn't care, because I didn't have to care. There's no attrition.
Yeah. That's an area that we definitely agree on. I think food was a fantastic idea. Armies having food and supply, fantastic idea. Really not executed as well as it could have been. Being able to lose a siege because you ran out of food is something that totally should be in the game, but honestly, how many times that ever happened to you? Because I every time I play a tribe and I use my tribal retinues to siege, happens then, because they don't get to build supply trains. Unless you...
I think it happens for me beginning of the game, when I forget, or when I've played in a very small nation and I've only got one donkey and the siege has gone on for a very long time. And I think, right, okay, I need to fall back, I need to, you know, but after that, after the initial 15, 20 years probably, never. Apart from in the multiplayer, because my god is it hard trying to go through Palestine and into Egypt with 400,000 Argead troops, and you're eating all the food.
Speaking of multiplayer,
That's where
not
it
being
works.
able to resupply your donkeys when in an ally's land is a huge deal.
Just give a button, turn off allied supply here, yes or no. So that way you can't get griefed, and you still allow supply.
Yeah, because that would fix quite a lot. I think the biggest thing though is definitely the attrition.
Yeah.
Because if you think about Alexander, right? He went to India and then he came back again. On the way back, he went through the Gedrosian desert.
Yeah.
And he ran out of food and lost a lot of men. But he didn't really run out of food in Imperator terms.
No.
His army was still being fed. It was just marching through a fucking desert.
Yeah, he made a big blunder, but
Well,
yeah,
I mean, he marched through to teach him a lesson for their mutiny.
I don't believe that.
You don't?
No, I don't want to. No, I believe it was just a genuine mistake on his logistical part. From what I've learned about that, I genuinely think it was a mistake he had made. I don't think it was him teaching them a lesson, especially when you actually read about like the quote unquote. I'm doing the quotes here, mutiny, because it wasn't really. Yeah. Anyway, that's Alexander. That's not Imperator. But definitely introduced
Hashtag Philip was better, right?
I mean, hashtag Philip the Great, hashtag Alexander the Conqueror.
Yeah, I could see that.
But definitely a system in Imperator where during the summer months of the year, you take a desert attrition +1. Apart from camels. Camels should be fine. Let's leave the camels alone. But everything else should take attrition. During the winter, mountains should take attrition. 1% attrition.
You could make different countries distinct as well with that. It's like this, maybe Atropatene, after living in the mountains, their entire country is revolving around the mountains.
Yeah.
They could avoid that kind of attrition. That could work.
And you could even do it on even a siege. Just have a base attrition in a siege. If you're not gonna do siege like a siege mini game kind of mechanics, just to simulate the ebb and flow of the raids and the counter raids and the skirmishing going on during the siege. You might have food, but men are still gonna die to raids and shit, and just adding in just
little
that
sallies
little bit
out, plague or disease spreading through your camp. And I think that could be pretty easily added with the similar setup that the things like Mayo and Texas has. Whereas if you roll a 0 on a siege with Mayo and Texas, you take a huge amount of losses. That could work.
Yeah. And then if you tie it in with civilization value, barbarians, they can travel through low civilized areas fine. A giant fucking Roman army,
they got to about
taking attrition. Or not even say they're taking more attrition, just increase the food that they consume for every monthly tick they're in uncivilized land or something like that. Just something to just make it more.
Well, when Caesar went to England, he had to send out foraging parties, of course, to keep his army supplied, but he wasn't going to be able to stay there indefinitely. Whereas in Imperator, you can, as long as you take the enemy's provincial capital. You get the food from there now. And I don't know, it's a really damn good system that has been kind of not gone far enough. They haven't added the mechanics to make it truly great, and I think a lot of the reason why is because they maybe felt it was too punishing if they went full realism. Maybe, I don't know. There's a lot of things that in Imperator where it's a great idea and it's got potential to be fantastic, but it just didn't go far enough.
Yeah.
Like with food, I had a comment here about seasons. When in the summer, that's when you harvest the food. And in the winter, you don't grow any food. So there's always this ebb and flow about how much food you have in a province. I would love that. That would make me need to build granaries.
Yeah. Yes.
God, okay, we need to go over buildings as well, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do. The game has changed a metric fuck ton in the past year. There's a lot to go over, as you can probably tell.
Buildings in Cicero?
Yes. Cicero, man. Pretty big update.
Cicero is great.
Yeah.
Because just looking at the game now, these 4... Because that was another thing that got a big backlash when it first came out.
Yeah,
when
the buildings.
The dev diary. We're having 4 buildings for every single city back then in the game, which was every single territory now. You get 4 buildings.
Yeah.
And you can stack as many of these buildings as you want.
Well, I mean, you got an extra slot.
Yeah.
Based on, I think, 10 pops?
Yeah, every 10 pops, you get an extra building slot, and you can stack that full of granaries. You can stack that full of forts. And I will never forget Cheese having that huge... I think it was Cheese. You had that huge fort, Emporium. And that, because that was the first time we played Emporium. And yeah, never forget that.
I think it required 55,000 troops to siege. So it must have been a level 11 fort. I could have done it. I went over with some mercenaries right at the end of the game, but the game ended, so never got around to it. But yeah, just the building system just got improved massively, but again, it's like something that it's almost there, but it's not quite there. Because right now, I mean, aqueducts are the biggest indicator of this. But academies and training grounds are just as bloody bad. How many aqueducts can you realistically fit in a city? And after how long is an aqueduct that just pours water from a bloody hill into a city, how long is that gonna be useful? Like, adding an extra aqueduct, it's just a little bit more water. You've already got the water from the previous 13 aqueducts you built. What's this extra one going to do? Fuck all.
I think Rome had 32. I don't know why I've got 32 somewhere, but I think they had 32 aqueducts for the entirety of Rome. Now, obviously, aqueducts in game don't translate to aqueducts in real life.
Naturally.
But aqueducts should definitely be, instead of aqueducts give you... It's like food. Food and aqueducts shouldn't be they give you pop growth. Food and aqueducts should be they sustain your pops. You build them not to increase your pop capacity, not to increase your pop growth. You build them to keep your pops fed, to keep your pops with water, and they should be dependent on how many pops you already have in the city. And I think that goes with a lot of the buildings.
Yes. I mean, academies are another one of the big ones, giving, was it plus 10% research output for all your citizens? These things that... The actual number is kind of irrelevant, but what it turned into was you want to make all of your pops go in just one city, because then you can build these buildings that increase all of the pops by 10%, and if you stack the amount of buildings, you can increase them by like 150%. So every pop in this city is worth 150% more than a pop in the city down the road.
I hate that system so much. I mean, I've told you what I would want.
I despise it. I think it's terrible.
Yeah.
It led to the creation of the mega city, which was terrible and awful, and mega cities are a big problem, and you should watch my video on that. Link's probably going to be somewhere. But yeah, no, it did not. It's a really good system that was easily abused. And what I'd love to see for cities is, I have 5 citizens in my city. I have no buildings though. My citizens are getting a massive happiness penalty because they really want a library. They're citizens. We should have a library. So you build this library to not get a happiness boost, but to placate the citizens that are already there and get rid of their happiness debuff. Even in your capital city, so you would end up in a situation where you're not building buildings to make your pops better, but to make them happier. So one city is only going to be, more valuable than another because the pops are happier there. And I think if you look at Rome, when it was, fucking huge, it wasn't, people weren't happy. They weren't more productive there. The Roman Senate didn't want people to be moving to Rome. They had so many social programs and stuff to put people back out in the countryside because that's where they were productive. But they were coming to Rome because, free bread and we can watch some people fight to the death. And maybe there's going to be a job, but if there's not, there's free bread. Who gives a shit? Rome didn't want people coming to Rome, but in the game as it stands, you want as many people as possible to go to Rome. Or if you're really metagaming, Ostia. But I know people who play Rome and move the capital to Ostia are the lowest form of scum. So they are, though. Come off it. They really are.
Right. While I do agree on this, I do think that the entire building system, especially at its inception, we've gone from 4 buildings to all of these. We now have cities and we now have settlements. That's what got me back into the game and trying to work out, before all the maths was done, before people figured out what was the meta.
Yeah.
Just building and trying to see what worked for me and trying to build up cities. I didn't have a clue what I was doing in the multiplayer of Syracuse, but I was like, you know what, I think having multiple really good cities is the way forward. And that's what I was doing. I was like, right, I think this is going to be good.
That is the most fun way to play.
And yeah, I genuinely enjoyed it. And I can see why a lot of people like building cities in the game, even though it's now become a meta for multiplayer. And there is obviously going to be the most efficient way.
Metas kill multiplayer for me. They kill it. They suck all of the life out of it.
Any game that is basically a spreadsheet with some fancy graphics is going to have a meta at the end of the day. But I can see why people do enjoy it. All right, how many pops can I get into this city this time? And all that. But I do agree that it needs to be reworked. And looking at the dev diary, aqueducts didn't used to give pop capacity.
Oh, really? What did they give?
Granaries gave pop capacity. Aqueducts gave 1% population growth and 0.5% migration attraction.
That was territory redesign. That was this one.
Wasn't that when they first released it? And people were getting humongous cities with insane migration because they were spamming aqueducts instead of getting the pop cap. I'm pretty sure I saw something about that.
I know the first case of that I saw was by Riemann. He built, I think it was Carthage, up to something like 6,000 pops. And I think he coined megacities, because the post on the forums was, show off your megacities. Since then, I've seen it 10, maybe 11,000 in Akragas in Sicily.
Yeah.
And it's just, you just spam one kind of building, so people come here, and it's boring, and it doesn't work. I don't like it. I think, though, in contrast to that, I think settlement buildings work fine. I don't have any problem with any of the settlement buildings. The some that I don't ever build, the tribal settlement, and I'll always build a farm or a mine unless I really need a fort. But otherwise, I don't really have a problem with the way that settlement buildings work.
My issue with them is more the issue of how slaves and the surplus works.
Oh,
I would like to see it that building mines doesn't give you extra surplus, but you seize the mines of Spain, you're going to get very rich, and you can build an army to invade Rome. I think that precious metals and the way that stuff and settlements should work is they should give you money instead of giving you extra.
Yeah, I'm
One
not
trade
going into
privilege is going to get you
the
none.
modifiers, just how
Yeah.
the buildings are built.
I don't mind how they are. I do think it very much becomes a lot of people spam slave estates, and that is it. That I think is a meta for multiplayer. That's what a lot of people do.
I like barracks purely because I don't want my settlements to be 100% filled with slaves. I want some variation there, and barracks are the only ones that give any freeman at all.
Yeah.
So I like barracks for that reason alone. I don't give a fuck what the meta is. Like I said, meta kills multiplayer.
I do like though settlements, cities. I like the difference. I think
Yes.
we can get a lot more can go into it, but it's definitely really good. And I like my idea of every pop will give you a maximum output. There is no stacking modifiers to get 150% of the output of this pop. Like you have a maximum output and you need to build buildings to try and get to as high as you can of the output of that pop. I don't like the way the modifiers are done, but I do like having multiple buildings and I do like having settlements and cities. So fantastic change.
I think a way to fix the mega city problem is as well to just reduce the efficiency of pops for how many pops there are in the city. Like if as overcrowding becomes a problem, your efficiency goes down, and you're not going to get as much research out of these guys because there's too many people in the city, and you're going to need to build more academies to compensate for that. But at some point, if you've got too many people in a city, then it's going to be less valuable than having a smaller city with, a couple of academies. Something like that. Just something to reduce the craziness that it can get to.
See, what did I...
Maybe they should kill manpower completely, that you need barracks. That's insane, and that's worth thinking about, but right now that just seems insane.
Yeah. What was it? Right. So, this is something I've thought about with buildings, cities, is you take Solaris's districts. You have your housing district, you have your industry district, you have your bureaucratic district, you have your military district. They then give you building slots for buildings in those categories. And you only have so many districts for each tile. If the tile is on a plain, it has more districts than if it was on a mountain. And you can build over the districts, but then that will then begin to give you a lot of debuffs and stuff. Something like that, like instead of just building being restricted. I feel
I
like
like
every
it because I
city should feel
love
different.
the way that Stellaris's districts work. I feel like it's probably not going to happen because people will see it and say, oh, they're just ripping off Stellaris. So I don't think we're going to see it, but I actually would kind of love that.
Like, if you could have, instead of one type of, like, you have a housing district, you have 5 housing districts, you maximize your housing districts. Well, what are you going to do? You build up, you then research your technology, which allows you to build, multiple story buildings, which Rome had. But when you get fires, and they would increase the risk of a fire and a fire being bad, you then get more people, more pops dying because of it. Yeah, okay, you're allowing more people to live in your city, but then it comes at a debuff. And I think that's what cities could brilliantly do within the future, being able to upgrade buildings.
Yes.
Have a palace. Go down from a console area and then have a palace and different admin type of buildings, and then they can upgrade. But then they all have their own debuffs and they only have their own positive modifiers, and you've got to balance them. That would be great.
Well, something that Stellaris does really well, I think, is they have a naturally occurring population limit based on the amount of districts they have. That population limit is not a hard cap. It's just, and you can change it by, instead of building this mercantile-ish district or a mining district or whatever, build more housing districts instead. So you can definitely increase the amount of the the maximum population capacity you'd have, but at a cost of not having as much, energy or minerals or whatever.
Yeah.
That dynamic population capacity having a limit is something that Imperator needs, because a pop isn't related directly to any number of people. It's been said multiple times.
Yeah.
One pop is not 1,000 people. One pop is not
It isn't my
10,000
headcanon.
people. You can have your own headcanon on what it might be. My own is around about 3,500. But it's not directly related. The devs have said this multiple times. So you can't really say, okay, so Rome has 1,000 pops in it, therefore its population is equal to, how it was in history, because in history it had 1 million people in it at this time. I don't think you can say that. But it should still have a maximum capacity based on, the amount of districts that you build. I would love that. And especially not having a max number of districts, but, the more districts you build, if you want to get these people who are currently living in a slum district to live in a housing district, it's going to come with the problem that you'll have more overcrowding and you'll have less efficiency on the people doing jobs in your city. It'll have all these problems associated with it, but it'll increase your maximum capacity, which will then fill up, and then people will make more slums, which will then further reduce the efficiency. I love that idea. I'm going to steal it, and I'm going to make a video about it.
I can send you so many Word documents of stuff you can make for videos.
Oh, please do.
Yeah.
I'll put your name in the description. It'll be all right. But yeah, no, that I love that idea. I love that idea a lot.
Another thing Tiger King has said about cities, food, is far too abundant, I think.
Yeah, having the seasonal thing would change a lot with that. It's like, yeah, this farm was really, really, it produced a hell of a lot of food. But it's winter, snow everywhere, you're not harvesting grain. You're not harvesting grain every single month, which you are in Imperator Rome. What if you had harvesting seasons? And so I don't know what a harvesting season is, I'm not a farmer, but say every August you harvest the crops and you get, this massive boost to your, the food capacity of the city, or of the province, I guess, as it would need to be stored on the provincial level. And then this would slowly drain over time, and you're getting more and more worried that you're not going to have enough food, you're going to run out, people are going to starve. But then it's harvesting season again. Yay, we can harvest again. That sort of thing would be fucking awesome, especially because one of the big reasons why Egypt was so bloody good for food is they had more than one harvest season, because they could harvest in, April and August. I don't know the actual times when it was done, but I know that they had more than one harvest season, or they had more than, the standard amount. That would be phenomenal.
Yeah.
And if you could, instead of selling grain via trade routes, if you could sell food from your granaries, that would be a big change. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
I'd love that.
Yeah.
I would love that.
That's something when it comes to the back to the cities, the mega cities, is I don't think it should be impossible to have 1,000 pop city. I just think you need to own all of the grain in the Mediterranean and feed it directly into your capital to do so. Like what Rome did.
Yeah.
You should. Your city's getting more and more pops coming into it. They're not budging. They're staying. And you're like, all right, how am I going to feed them? Right, okay. Sicily. Let's get Sicily. Pops keep growing. Okay, right, shit. I need more grain. Okay, right, Carthage. Carthage has grain. And eventually you were doing conquest for grain to secure the food for your pops. And I would love to see something like that. Being forced to go to war to feed your people.
Yeah. Especially if they have some sort of rework to pirates where the pirates can steal your grain shipments. Oh, imagine.
Oh yeah, so I want somebody in multiplayer to do a Pompey and, raid, stop the shipments coming in
Yeah.
Great.
Blockades doing more than, oh, I'm now earning 0.02 ducats per month from blockading you. No, what I'm doing is completely ruining you by stopping the food coming in. I mean, it does do that though, doesn't it? It does stop a lot
That's
of
what
the
Iggy
imports, right?
was. Yeah, Iggy was very, very much not happy about that when it was happening to him in multiplayer, where his port was blockaded because he had a port city, and then that was killing his food in the city. I think if you're gonna, what I would like though is like, okay, you don't have to just blockade. I would like supply trade routes, and then you can blockade anyway on that. You don't have to be right outside the port.
Yeah.
And also
Being able to see ships going
stuff
from
with
port to
mixed
port with
biomass.
these kind of food goods as well.
Yeah.
Just bringing that would bring so much life to the Mediterranean as well. If you could see, you know, you could see a little ship moving from the port of Ostia down through the Mediterranean into Alexandria and then back again. And that would just bring so much life to the Med, seeing all these ships moving around on the, the known trade routes. And then you manage to get a trade route between yourself and India. And oh my god, now you see ships moving between. Oh, it's so good. I would love it.
Lag though. Could you imagine?
Does it improve? Does it increase the lag in EU4? No, it doesn't. EU4 has it. EU4 has the exact system.
Yeah,
you can see the little ships and they turn into little caravans.
Ships and Stellaris, and I'm thinking, ooh. But yeah, no, fair point on that one.
I mean, there's if you turn off that system in EU4, you can do that in the options menu, graphical options. It affects your performance very little. So it wouldn't be a problem. But it brings a lot. It brings so much life to the game. And yeah, if there's pirates at the moment, I turn off the notification that a pirate is raided my port, because I simply do not care. If that pirate, however, just stole or sunk a big old shipment of grain that was coming into Rome, I'd be pissed, and I would be finding those pirates and I would be crucifying them, because fuck that. Yep. Right now, I don't give a shit about pirates.
Yeah, no. Funnily enough, I used to give a shit about them in 1.0 because you could just farm experience for your ships with them.
Yeah, putting like 20 ships outside every port.
Dominated that multiplayer game was I just had maximum experience in all my ships. But now I just don't care about them because and I'm like, that's something I've cared about less. But I do wish pirates had a way more impact on the game.
Well, one of the, I think it was actually probably the first suggestions video I had for Imperator was a pirate rework, where I would have them stealing pops and bringing them to their haven, and so it would be beneficial to have a pirate haven in your country, and you would want to get rid of it if it was in someone else's because they're stealing your pops, and it'd make me give a shit about pirates, while at the same time it would, I mean, at the time you got something crazy like, pirate fleets of 600 ships, which was a bit broken. But yeah, I still have hope that my pirate rework will come into the game. And I also, I did see a comment a little earlier saying about all of these things that we're suggesting will never make it in. And no. I disagree. I think, I know for a fact that some of the Imperator devs do watch my videos, and I'm not going to say that my suggestions are going to make it into the game, but if my suggestions inspire them or make them think about a way to change something, and even if it's completely different to what I suggest, if my video makes them, change it into something else, I'm totally fine with that. I'm entirely on board with that.
Yeah.
Having suggestions, I don't think it's ever going to be a bad thing or a waste of time.
Oh, no.
Even if they don't get into the game, it's never going to be a waste of time.
Jake has brought up a pretty good point that I think we should probably touch on, is that a lot of our suggestions and a lot of what would make Imperator good would require another 1.2.
Yes.
And we've moved away from that, and we're now doing smaller but more frequent updates, which I'm probably in the minority of this because I know a lot of people have liked 1.3 and 1.4, but I just don't think they're doing enough for the game. I'm sure we're going to end up talking about the religion rework, but obviously 1.3 for me, the two big things that were brought in were mission trees and food, and both of them I just feel don't really do anything for the game as much. Food has, it has a potential, and the big thing it's done is made a manpower abundant, but then obviously we've
redundant as well.
Yeah, and we've both talked about them, and for me that just feels like that was it was a nice addition, don't get me wrong, but it just wasn't what the game needs. And then we get 1.4 with the religion rework, and I feel that yet again it's a nice addition, but if we're going to keep getting updates like this where they're taking something and they're just reworking it a little, or
I'm actually
they're adding something in, I don't know if we're ever going to get another 1.2, and we need another 1.2.
I'm going to disagree with you. Not that we're never going to get another 1.2. I don't think we are. But if you look at the things that changed in 1.2, they're not all the same thing. Like, we could have gotten mana removed without pops being, given full of life. We could have gotten a pop change without mana being removed. Like, these things can exist separately. So if it takes like a couple of patches where in one of the patches a small part of our suggestions are added, and then the next patch there's another small part of our suggestions added, I'm still fine with that. I think hypothetically, if the devs were completely on board and wanted to add in every single thing that we've suggested, it doesn't all have to be in one patch. It can be, this will be the patch that focuses on armies, and therefore food is now changed to something else. And then, a couple of months later, this is going to be the patch that changes cities and the way they work. And they don't have to be in the same thing. It doesn't have to be a Cicero that changes everything. I don't think anything we've suggested needs to go with the other thing at the same time. So I'm going to disagree with you.
A counterpoint. Buildings. If you look at what buildings do, or the modifiers they do, they go hand in hand with food and migration and pops moving around, and that I understand what you're saying, and I can see what you're saying, but I feel like a lot of the changes you're either gonna have to do them all at once, redo, add in food, redo cities and settlements, buildings, move all that around all at once, or you're going to do it a bit at a time, and then you come up with a predicament of, do you do it enough ready to get you ready for the next update that you want to do, but then that's going to leave it as a bit odd out, like, well, this doesn't really work well with the rest of the game, or do you do it and you don't go far enough, and then it just feels like a bit of a non-change, which I feel the religion update was, which is going to probably be controversial.
Well, how about we go on to the religion update?
Okay.
So I know where you're coming from. And what I'm actually going to do is close Imperator and open the most recent version of the game. So, if you're not sure of how to do it, this is how you do it. And you have to do it twice, because if the game's open, you can't open this one. Alright, so there we go. So while that goes on, I'm going to open the dev diary. And I'm fairly sure I know what you're going to be saying about this, because we've talked about it before, and I know exactly what you're going to be saying. And I see where you're coming from, but how about you say what it is first?
Right.
Tell people what I disagree with.
Right. So, when religion first came out in the game, on release, we had 8 omens, and we could spend a mana. I forgot how much mana it was. 120,
200.
was it? 200. Even more than I remember. God, I hate mana. You could spend that every 5 years. You got a bonus. You had 8 bonuses to pick from. all of them were bonuses. You was going to get that bonus no matter what, and you would get inventions to decrease the time, decrease the cost, increase the bonus you would get from it, and that was that. It was okay. It's just something you just clicked every few years. You click the button, you got the bonus. And then we got the change with, mana was removed, and so it was free. But, you still click the bonus every few years. You still got inventions to increase the power of it. And some of them were really good bonuses, and some of them were the tax omen for the Greeks, and they were utterly broken. And they were like, great, don't worry. We hear you. We hear religion is not good in the game. We are going to rework it. And what they did is, instead of you having a choice of that you get given at the start of the game, depending on where you start, some countries get different omens depending on the religion and all that. You still, they was like, right, okay, we're going to give you 4 omen slots. You can pick whatever omen you want from your list. You can even pick deities for the omen from different religions. You get a passive bonus, and you get a bonus you get to click every few years. Now, right there and then, yeah, okay, you get to tailor your omens to yourself, but it's still something that you tailor, and then that's it. You leave it for the rest of the game. Very much like the previous. And you're not going to change it because it costs 15 stability. So if you are going to change, you're going to do it, very sparingly. Now, to me, that doesn't address the issue as much with religion, because there is no. It's the same. I'm trying to word this. It's like the same design in a way. It's still omens. It's still you clicking a button every few years. Yeah, okay, you get to pick what you want, and you can, if you've got legit an extra bonus OP, and that's pretty broken in my opinion when you get an extra provincial investment for it. But it's still something that you tailor at the start of the game, but then you never touch again, really, unless you're trying to upgrade to get the deities. And you can get the big thing was you can get deities of other religions, but you get 20% less conversion on that religion and 5% extra happiness. And I know you've said this yourself, Lambert.
This is the part
why get a
where
deity of a different religion?
Yeah, I think this is the part where what you said earlier makes a lot of sense, that they would change something looking at a future patch. And I think because we're getting the summer of culture, where culture is going to be completely reworked, they didn't really bother changing, cultural conversion and the way that it works with religion. I think that's probably the place where we agree on the religion changes. Where we disagree is, I don't think omens were broken, and so that they've changed them to this is, I mean, I don't see a problem with the new system.
There isn't a problem. It's okay, but it's just to me, it's okay. I like it. Don't get me wrong. I prefer it over the old one. But to me, in gameplay terms, there is no change, and it doesn't address the issue of religion, which is convert everything.
Yeah, it's still convert everything. And, having one of your deities be of another religion, yeah, it makes them a lot happier. But then obviously, tanks the amount of conversion you can do culturally. And like I said, that's where I think they're looking at the next update. This was maybe put in prematurely. Maybe religion and culture should have been put together in the same patch, because they are very, very linked. I mean, it's your pop's identity, and maybe instead of a religion patch and a culture patch, we should have had a pop identity patch. But like I said, other than the whole I need to convert everyone, which I think may not be the case in the next patch, perhaps. There's nothing else that I really disagree with. I mean, I love the fact that you can tailor your gods. I think that's a really good flavor change, and I especially love being able to deify my characters. I think that adds a huge amount of flavor to it. Again, especially when I can name one of my characters Lambert or Lambertos, and then deify him, and then he's permanently going to be in my country, and I can use his omen, and that is honestly one of the best fucking feelings that you can have, is, you know, getting the omen of yourself. It gives me a big head, and I enjoy that. I really like, you know, the shrines that you have, and being able to tailor them by putting different icons and items in it. I don't see where the problem is, other than conversion is still the default. And it's only the default because culture is still something that has to be converted. And that's only the case because we haven't had the Summer of Culture yet.
But wasn't the point of the religion update to make it so you wasn't just painting the map of your religion?
Yes, my point is, the only reason we still need to paint the map in our religion is because having foreign religion pops tanks culture conversion, and because we haven't had the culture rework, that is still necessary to culture convert.
Okay. So
the only reason to religiously convert nowadays is so that you can get the culture changed. And I think that's going to change in the next patch.
But then if that changes and you don't need to convert to assimilate more efficiently, what do you... Then religion is just nothing apart from picking the best omens.
Well, I mean, there's the happiness boost, which increases output and productivity and stuff.
Which is 5%.
Yeah, but there is also no longer any negative for being the wrong religion.
No, but it's still...
It allows you to have a multi-religion empire.
Yeah, but it just... Yeah, it's just, to me, it just doesn't seem like it does anything. And then I know you hear you saying, oh yeah, but wait for the culture, but...
I'm saying I think the problem is we haven't had culture. I think it's probably a bad thing that they didn't come together. I think it's going to make sense when the culture update comes out. But I'm not saying, oh, just wait for this, as in there's no problem, it's going to get changed. But it should have been changed already, is my issue with it. If that makes sense. It probably doesn't. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Like I said, I just think that instead of a happiness boost, they could have had a conversion speed boost. Like if you're being friendly towards your foreign religion pops, these Kemetic pops with plus 15% happiness. If this was plus 15% conversion speed, making it faster to convert your foreign religion pops, then that would work out really nice. Didn't they also say at the time that religion didn't play such a big role at the time? They said that, and I kind of disagreed with them. I mean, if you think of the Romans, like, religion was a huge part of their culture.
Yeah, but also when they conquered a lot of peoples, they were also what's the word? Polytheistic?
Yeah.
I believe the word.
And I'm going to accept your
god. And
god
that's why they had the issue with a certain religion in the game that has always had a rough time in history, because they only had one god and they wouldn't accept the Roman gods, and that's why they had such a big issue. But like, the Greeks, like Alexander. I've forgotten which Hindu god it was, but I'm pretty sure he basically, when he went into India, he was like, "Oh, okay, this Hindu god, that's basically our I'm pretty sure it was a god for wine. It was one of the Greek gods, and he was basically like, okay, yeah, they're the same gods, and they just didn't have an issue. Like,
Yeah.
there wasn't any issue, and it should. The fact that you were just, yeah, there shouldn't be an issue with cultures, religions, for most of the game. I feel.
With Judaism not allowing you to, add gods of another religion, I guess that is sort of similar, but can the Romans add a god of the Judeans? I actually don't know the answer to that one.
Add a prophet.
Can they have a deity from the Jewish religion? I don't know. But yeah, I still can't help but think that it'll make sense with the culture update.
Yeah,
But where you think I'm saying that in a positive way, I'm actually saying it in a negative, because I do think it should have been changed already. It should have all been together.
Yeah. I still feel that it's just... It just feels like a change that... It's a nice change, but there are other things with the game I would rather them change before that. Like, definitely culture, because there is a lot they could do. Because the full Hellenization of the Diadochi, if they don't expand, is just ahistorical as fuck. Because, yeah, no. And I just don't like it, and...
We'll say as well, there are some of the deity, the character deities that are incredibly broken, overpowered. Like, I've just tabbed into Judea now, and Moses, a free provincial investment, is worth a hell of a lot more than plus 10 religious advance progress, or more than 2 pops. It's certainly worth more than 2 pops. Yeah. So David's never going to get picked.
That's one thing I don't like with... I don't want to get onto this. This is the only thing I'm going to say about DLC, but I don't like the fact that deities are a DLC thing, with the beams so powerful now.
Yeah.
Deified rulers, even.
I had no idea that it was... only, deified rulers were going to be able to have these effects. When I first started playing, that was something I learned a lot later. The idea that you could only deify a ruler if you had the DLC was fine to me before I saw that some of these were, incredibly
pretty
broken, overpowered.
Yeah, one provincial investment, especially with... Right, Moses right now is probably one of the most powerful deities there is after the recent hotfix, because you get a provincial investment which costs political influence, which has been nerfed into the ground quite a bit by the loyalty update, and the fact that you're spending it more because you have to spend it for bribes, and he gives you manpower recovery speed.
Yeah, Moses is great. He split the Red Sea, man. What more can you ask for? There's also the Prophet of Culture, that gives you permanent tax bonus to Jerusalem. Is there another one?
Now, I've just looked at the Prophet of Culture in Judea at the minute, and he's the one that gives you the religious advances, and that is another thing that is brokenly overpowered. Because it's not... You get,
Whoa, wait a minute. If you change the Jewish Prophet of Culture to Ezra, every time you click this button, you gain 10 stability.
Oh my god.
That is on the same level. I can't change it here, but that is on the same level as Moses. Why did I not pick this when I was playing as Judea? What's wrong with me? This is phenomenal. And, slave happiness is pretty decent. That's more money, innit?
Wait, have they? I've forgotten how it worked. Have they changed the?
Wait a minute. No. Even more than that. Solomon, you get permanently plus 2% taxes, plus 1 pop cap, and plus 1% citizen happiness. Permanently. Every time you use the omen.
Yeah.
Alright, Jesus.
Also, the Judea gets plus 10 religious advances. Is that the one that's broken, or have they changed that yet?
I'm pretty sure that was like that when I was playing Judea.
Because that's one where it's stupidly broken because you can. It's not the percentage thing, is it? I know Jake was telling me about this one, that you basically, it gives you, instead of it basically ignores ahead of time.
Yeah, I think that was that one. Well, I don't see any here for military advances. But there is one for military experience, but you're never switching away from Moses, so I'm sorry, Deborah. I'm sorry, Ezekiel. Nah. just nah. Judea kind of broken in this game. I mean, considering they start between Phrygia and Egypt and most likely going to die. No. But if you manage to get Judea to be strong, yes.
Of course, Judea is brokenly overpowered. You managed to succeed as them.
Shut up. You really can be an arse sometimes.
Hey, we've gone through over 2 hours of this stream, and I haven't properly given you a good insult yet, so I felt that was good. I'm improving. I haven't had a good jab at you, so there we go.
You know why the religious update was necessary? To get rid of the pig stabbing sound for Judea.
I haven't thought about that before.
Yeah, no, a very good point, Agamade. I think there was probably, I mean, yeah, I'm gonna say there was probably more reasons than that it was necessary, but I was of the belief when they announced it, and I'm kind of still of the belief that religion in the game before the update was fine. There's areas of the game that I do think need reworks. Religion wasn't one that I was like, oh, okay, this needs changing. So honestly, you say that in jest, but that is the only thing that was actively bad that got changed. So you're right. It was the only reason. But like I said, there's things that have been improved by the religious update, but nothing was like super necessary.
Yeah.
Because religion worked fine. It's nice that they've changed it into something, in my opinion, that is much better, but it wasn't something that in the game that was bad. Whereas if we want to talk about trade... No, I think what we should do is talk about loyalty. Because here we disagree as well. And I think this time I'm going to start.
Can I just say, though, I feel that with what I talked about the characters earlier, you might begin to understand my point with the loyalty system a lot better now. Because it's not a straight up, I don't agree with you, it's a different kind of angle. But yeah, I'll let you start.
All right. So, before the Archimedes patch, loyalty was something that was largely ignorable. Say you had a governor that was slowly ticking down in loyalty, even if, say, somebody playing in a multiplayer game was inspiring disloyalty on them, they would lose 0.5 loyalty per month, and that would never stop. And you would have years of forewarning that this guy will eventually become disloyal, so I'm gonna fix the problem well in advance, and it's no longer anything I have to worry about. Yeah, he's gonna go disloyal, but I don't care because I fixed it. And even if it's not inspired disloyalty, even just random other events or traits that they've picked up that will make them go disloyal, you had so much forewarning about them going disloyal that it was a non-issue. And while when we all first started playing the game, civil wars were something to worry about. When we learned the game a bit, they really weren't, and we very rarely, I'm saying we as in literally everyone, very rarely had civil wars. It became a non-issue that no one had to worry about. And now, you gotta worry about it. You really do gotta worry about it. Let me just, I think I tagged over to this in a previous game. Is it Arvernia? Oh. When I was doing my video yesterday, about all the changes that had happened to Imperator, when I launched the game as Arvernia to, I think, talk about the tribal laws, immediately we were on the 1st of October 450, and Arvernia had the little flag up saying that they were going to have a civil war. Because immediately from the very start of the game, they had to worry about problems with characters' loyalty. If you're playing as Judea, you start with an army that has no leader. If you put this dickhead here, Joseph Cephas Cyanicus, he was going to become immediately disloyal because he had an army. He's already fairly lapsed. He's got the lapse trait, and he was going to become disloyal immediately because you're giving him control of the entirety of your armed forces. And he's now thinking, oh, now I've got the power to do something about me being a bit of a dickhead. Loyalty turned from something that you could ignore almost entirely to something that you actively had to give a shit about. And that, to me, was a huge improvement. If loyalty is supposed to be a thing that you need to worry about, and it really is, when Johan was asked about what one word he would use to describe like the feel of the game and the spirit of the game, he said about loyalty. Like, that was his word. But it was ignorable. And that is bad. And they changed it so it was no longer ignorable. You had to care. And I'm sorry, but that's a good thing. If you were disliking it, not you, Vespasian, but if people in the comments or people elsewhere are disliking it, because, oh no, now I have to give a shit about loyalty. Oh no, now I have to manage something I didn't have to manage before. Oh no, I'm now having problems with loyalty. Good. Good. Just good. You're actually having to interact with a mechanic in the game now that you didn't have to care about before. Good. Enjoy it. Deal with it and, interact with the system to fix your problems. That's better than not having to worry about it at all. Alright, rant over, your turn. I'm very, very passionate about this being a good change. But yeah, I know your angle is different and doesn't necessarily disagree with mine.
I agree that civil wars happen more often. There are a lot of nations actually that start off with they're going to get into a civil war if you're not careful. I've seen Epirus AI do it quite a few times. There are a lot of nations that already start with a civil war ticking. Okay, yeah, fair enough. I think some of the starts should probably be balanced because I don't think it's going to be good for a new player. Oh, Arvernia. I know Arvernia from Rome 2. I'm going to click Arvernia and you've instantly got a civil war going. I don't like that as much.
Oh, I found one for me.
Unless there is historical precedent for them. Just to make it just easier for a player to get in. But apart from that, yeah, okay, fair enough. My big issue with it is I feel you can ignore it just as... It's just as easy to ignore, in a way. Because... And the way you do it is exactly the same. You click a button, you bribe, you grant a holding, you give the people more ruler families, you give them 2 extra jobs than they want and they get grateful, you marry them into your family and you get more loyalty. Like, okay, fair enough, I'm clicking more buttons, but if you're doing... You can still avoid it just as well. it does let you get fucked more easily and out of the blue, like it did in 1.0. Like when you just get a pretender will just spawn with 300,000 troops, oh shit. Obviously, that doesn't happen. It happens in a different way. You'll get a bad event and you get disloyal. The inspired to disloyalty got changed to, instead of it trends downwards, which I feel was more realistic. I like the idea of stuff trending. It was just a straight up -20. Now, if you've got any character on 52 loyalty or below in multiplayer, and it's a general, click that button, that general, you're in the middle of a battle, and that general, you don't even get a pop-up about it, and he's disloyal and he starts walking off to the other side of the country. I think that the loyalty system is a good change, with some stuff being an instant hit, but some stuff should be trending.
I would agree with that, especially for Inspired Disloyalty. I do agree that that one should be a trending, and it should, because as it stands, you as say you're playing as Phrygia, you send one message to the Egyptian general, and immediately he is disloyal.
Yeah.
That is a bad thing. You should have to work on him for a long time, right? I agree with that. So there are some things that should still be ticking.
Yeah.
But as a whole, like, Inspired Disloyalty is something that happened to me once playing in my Judea campaign. So, I mean, the fact that the AI is using it at all is a bit amazing. But even as Judea, I had to give a shit about it. Playing single player, I had to give a shit about it. Inspired Disloyalty, largely, is a problem because of multiplayer.
Yeah.
Especially as you can, also... what's it called? Entice governor. You can also do that. So I mean that's been.
Governor is a lot harder. That got nerfed.
Yeah, it did get nerfed quite heavily, but at the same time, the problem that you've just pointed out there, the Inspired Disloyalty, is it's still largely just a multiplayer problem.
Yeah,
and that can be changed by just changing that back to ticking. I'm pretty sure there are some loyalty modifiers in the game that are still ticking, so it wouldn't be too difficult to just make that one also ticking.
The thing is, right, then you get onto this, is every character reacts the same to every single thing. Okay, I've got my researcher in Phrygia. He has got 24 loyalty. He is proud, but he'll willingly accept a bribe. 15 loyalty. He's got 10 martial, 5 finesse, 4 charisma, 5 zeal. He's ahead of a member of my main family. If I click bribe, 15 loyalty. And that's my big issue, is that every single character is basically the same. Every interaction works exactly the same, and this is what I mean by it comes back to what my opinion is on characters. That you don't care who's who. You don't care who you bribe. You're bribing them just to get them loyal. And I don't like that everything is basically the same. Every character is the same to me. And then
they do act the same with every interaction, impacting them the same. I do agree that should be changed.
But overall, I don't mind the new system. It can do with some tweaks. I would like a hybrid between the two. Like if you bribe someone, it then ticks downwards. The loyalty does, and yeah. But it would be cool if you've bribed him, but you increase the bribe because you've already bribed him. He's going to want another bribe for the same amount of loyalty, and it stacks up that way, as well as giving you both corruption. And I think a lot could be done with the system to actually make me give a shit. At the minute, it's still quite easy to game. You do get fucked over more often with it, but it's still very easy to game. The big thing I don't like about it, and I'm very vocal about this, is you have an army. Let's get this guy. We'll just put him in. And now he's got less loyalty because he's now commanding an army which is loyal to the state, and that increases his power base. I don't think that should be a thing.
That has changed.
Has it?
That got changed. And I think
I
the
haven't played since the
most
patch.
recent patch.
Okay. Oh no, yeah, he
You
got
get
nerfed.
now a big loyalty boost for making somebody a general, just like when you make somebody an officer or make someone a researcher or whatever. You get that boost to their loyalty through
Granted
that,
office.
which really largely overturns the amount of loyalty they lose by now having a bunch of power.
They shouldn't get I've seen because you originally got the commanded cohorts, which for this guy is 2.2, and then you get the granted office, which is plus 15. But his power base in country is minus 6.5, and cohorts he's in charge of shouldn't count to his power base. Only loyal cohorts should count. I just don't agree with you give, especially if this guy is already loyal. I mean, this guy, he's brave. Okay, he's prominent. Fair enough. But, if he's got traits that would make him susceptible to, going against me.
Ambitious.
Yeah, he's ambitious. Then you begin to, he's a great marshal, but he's ambitious. Right, okay. What? Do I risk it? Because, if he's got high charisma, he can then start making the troops more loyal to him. I don't like the fact that, even though they've offset it with the granted office, cohorts that are loyal to the state shouldn't be, counting his power base. It should only be cohorts loyal to him.
I mean, while
you put Caesar in charge of armies, it's the Alpine goal. He didn't immediately turn around and march on the Senate. No, it took 10 years of him to get those troops to be absolutely steadfast loyal to him, for them to then follow him across the Rubicon. It wasn't as soon as he's put in charge. Commanders would turn their armies around, but that was when the troops were loyal to them, when they had the faith of the troops in them.
You also have to think the troops in an army are not omniscient. They don't know the general's inner thoughts and feelings. They don't know that he is considering, turning against the state. So them not following him across the Rubicon. I mean, the Rubicon is a special example because it's like you just don't bring an army south of that. And everyone knows that, and you know that that's the river that you don't cross. When Caesar did it, a lot of the troops in his army probably didn't know what was happening. They weren't following him with the express intention of, going against the state. The ones that did, they either, we're loyal to him, we're going to continue, or they turned against him, like Lepidus. And I think it's really hard to explain my thoughts on this, but in a gameplay situation, I think I agree all cohorts shouldn't add to power base. But in a sense, maybe a better way would be to have loyal cohorts add to power base more, but commanded cohorts also add to power base just a lot less. Because if you put a new general in charge of the entire army, he could posture with that army without the army knowing what he's doing. He could threaten the state and threaten your rule without anybody in that army knowing that that is what he's doing. And so it would still increase his power base. It would increase the amount of disloyalty he has as he thinks, I can do something with this. But it wouldn't be as much as if he knew for a fact that these guys here would follow me to the ends of the earth.
Yeah. It's just something gameplay terms. I would rather it be... Yeah, I'm just trying to gather my thoughts here on it, because, I would like a system where there was a hidden modifier to the player on whether...
Oh, we can talk about hidden modifiers all day long if you like.
On whether this character is loyal to the state or whether he has disdain for the state or the ruler of the republic, whatever you want to call it, hidden from the player, and this can change over time with how you treat that general. So he's more likely to become disloyal. He's more likely to turn the army against you based on that hidden modifier. And I would like stuff like that to just make the characters more unique. That, yeah, okay, this general could be posturing with it if he's got that hidden modifier that says he doesn't like you. Something like that.
A lot of these things should be hidden, and that would... it's strange because I think hiding a lot of the things that make the characters distinct would actually make them feel more distinct. Because then you wouldn't know. And you would have to use your imagination instead of seeing, oh, this guy's ambitious, he's victorious. Alright, but if I see none of this, I don't know, and I'm thinking, okay, you've just done this. As part of my gameplay, you sieged this place and you killed this army, so I'm thinking in my head, okay, what are you thinking? You're now feeling ambitious because you've just beaten this army, and maybe in the back end, something that I can't see, he did get something that made him ambitious because he just won this huge battle and something like that. So it's like kind of... Oh, it's hard to explain, but...
That's something that...
Less information
really
is more.
With prominence in a way. Like, dignitas in Rome. Like, if you know anything about Rome, you know dignitas was basically the main currency. Yeah, okay, you had money. But it was that dignitas in Rome of, you know, kind of like how prominent you are. And, you know, Marius would, you know, get the all-important dignitas, and, you know, he would start rising up, and people would want to be under him and be tutored by him so then they could... And you'd get all of these prominent figures rise up, and they would get that from winning battles and making sure they were getting the credit for it. And if you would have a general win a lot of battles, and his prominence is rising up, he's then going to be thinking, okay, you know what, maybe I could. And if he's got high martial, and if he's got high charisma, he could become he's not a part of your family, but he could become a pretender, because people could then start throwing their weight behind him. So another thing is characters supporting a random person in your family to be a pretender.
That really annoys me.
Yeah. Like, I would much rather them support somebody who isn't in my family, but has very high charisma and very high martial, and he is like a good candidate to put your power base behind. I would enjoy having a civil war fire against me much more if it was from that really good charismatic general than, oh, my 3-year-old cousin who's got 0050 or whatever, because he's a pretender and he's disloyal for some reason.
And he's 1-year-old.
Yeah. Like, I just... Yeah. Having characters interact based on their stats and their ambitions and their traits, and having them winning battles, which then increases stats and gives them traits, or losing them and how you treat them, that would then make me like the loyalty system a lot more, because you have to really care about your characters a lot more. At the minute, the loyalty system is better, it's not perfect, it's kind of more of the same, because I still don't care about my characters.
Yeah, caring more about the characters is obviously something that I want as well. But until we get a character rework update, this is still something positive that has happened to the game. And that's where I stand. So like I said, we don't disagree. I guess your disagreement with me is more a case of this wasn't what was needed, and my disagreement with you is non-existent, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I say, I like the direction that it's gone. It just
It's
obviously
definitely improved.
things. Yeah, it's definitely improved. It's just things need to be pushed further. And is it really reasonable for us to say, "Oh, this is good, but we want more"? Yes, and
Yes.
also no at the same time, because it's like sort of like
This can be the best Paradox
demanding
game ever,
in a way.
and I demand this be the best Paradox game ever.
Yeah, basically. Like I say, I'd like to, appreciate what they have done instead of denigrate for what they haven't done yet. Because I think everyone in the Imperator dev team knows like that the game has potential, and they can see it getting there, and they know that there are improvements that are yet to be made. They don't think the game is finished, so basically all we're doing is like saying, "Oh, this was good, but more." And instead of like saying this was good, we're just saying more. If I don't know if I'm making sense
Yeah,
anymore.
like well, like I understand. Like, I mean, like I said, 1.2, absolutely phenomenal, and that was perfect. And then how I feel with the updates is, yeah, okay, it's good, I like it, but can't you do something more that's needed? That's how I have a standpoint on it. Agama Day
I know
Imperator 2 will be
I
so good.
actually get that because when it was announced that we would get the religion and then the culture and then the war, my thoughts immediately were religion and culture. While of course they can be improved, and I'm sure that these updates will improve them, and Religion 1 has, there are areas of the game that are much more in need of improvement. And like the immediate thing I was thinking of was trade is the thing that really needs to be improved next. For you, it may have been characters or whatever.
Civilization building for me.
I mean,
Give me that communication efficiency.
that's very nondescript. I'm talking about like a specific thing. I don't know, but the way I was thinking was you should have done trade first. That was the thing that really needed to be done more. And I kind of still feel that, even at the same time while I'm thinking, the religion update, improve religion. Culture update will probably improve culture. The war update will probably improve war. But through all of that, trade is still going to be the same. And then maybe next, after war, we'll get a trade update. And that's going to be what's necessary. And then probably we'll get another, outliner of what we'll get in the next 4 updates, and then maybe there'll be something in there like, but this doesn't need to be changed before this is changed. Maybe it'll be cities next time. It's like, but you're changing, I don't know, you're changing the way that this works instead of working on cities. And I guess in a way it's like I obviously can't help myself but feel that trade is more needed. But I guess maybe they just have a different idea, and I don't know who's right. Is the customer always right? I worked in retail.
Yes,
that's not fucking true.
It depends on what side of the counter.
Yeah, I worked in retail for a couple of years.
Yeah.
The customer is not always right. The customer is an asshole. Oh, but
I hear what you're saying on that. And I had the original thought when I heard Autumn of War. I'm like, wait, what, war? But war's one of the best parts of the game. And then the more I thought about it, the more I went, battles and war needs a huge rework because it's far too much like EU4. It's far too much of having 30k stacks running around to feed into a single battle that lasts for months, involves hundreds of thousands of people, has tens of thousands of them die, rinse and repeat. It has far too much fort spam of just sieging down forts constantly. And I'm like, I can see that. But originally, when I first thought about war, I'm like, it doesn't need the update. But I could say a lot of it you can think about it and go, no, wait, I could see why they're doing that.
Yeah. Let's just hope that they have the same ideas of why war needs changing as we do.
Yeah. Like, I would love it. I know you said this is very anti-paradox, but I would love it if you could have a macro builder. You design your army in there and you build your army. You don't build individual cohorts. You build an army from a macro builder. And that is your army. And then you can only have so many of those running around.
Well, you know my thoughts on it, but I'm not going to say them here because that script is finished. And that just needs recording. But I guess we should go on to what is coming up. I mean,
Yes.
On Monday, we're going to have the first dev diary of the Menander patch. So we're going to learn what Menander has in store for us. What are you expecting and what are you hoping for?
Well, it's a paradox update for Imperator Rome, so if I didn't scream Diadochi at the loudest I can, it wouldn't be me, you know? And that's what I would want. That's what I feel like it could be. Culture, I feel like it would go really well with a Diadochi rework, especially with how they could have syncretic cultures. The Diadochi were very good at getting out what would be in-game output out of their wrong culture groups.
Yeah.
They were very good at they would still have the core of Macedonians, but then they would begin to implement local troops into their armies, and I think having something that would allow you to do that it's not, I mean, I hate the aggressive expansion mechanic, but something so it's not like for every country, oh, you take X amount of aggressive expansion, you get this much pop debuff and output for the foreign culture. I really, really, really want something that's gonna make the Diadochi and make expanding a lot better. I would like it if the culture update had cultural institutions in a way. The Romans taking over the Greeks isn't going to be as bad as the Romans taking over the Gauls or the Greeks going into India, because the cultural institutions, the way they run the governments and their very way of life are so similar that it doesn't really matter as much. And that's what I would like to see from the culture update. After the religion update, I think I should be more reserved at my expectations, because as we've said about the religion update, I still feel it was definitely an improvement, but a little improvement. And yeah. Yourself?
I'm honestly kind of... Well, I agree with you. I'd love to see all those things. What I think is going to be in the game with the culture update, I have no idea. I don't know what they're going to do with it, other than I think they're going to make it so that, you know, a multicultural empire is going to be a possibility. I don't know how they're going to do that. And I'm really, really looking forward to Monday when we're going to find out. But as for what they're going to do, I don't know. There's obviously going to be a DLC coming alongside it, and while I do think that the Diadochi are the best example of, you know, a multicultural empire that there is. I mean, just look at the cultural map mode of Phrygia and the Seleucids. It's very much not their own culture. While I do think that they would make the most sense for, you know, the DLC to focus on, I'm worried that they're not going to be. Because if you think about what occurred in the DLC for the recent religion patch, we had Syracuse, Sparta, Athens, and none of those really scream religion to me.
To be fair, I wouldn't want a Diadochi rework in a... I know I keep saying I want a DLC to be a rework based on...
There is no confirmed DLC, but it's gonna happen.
Yeah, but after the last DLC, I don't want just mission trees for the Diadochi. I want a satrapy system for Persia, which, you know, would act like, you know, if you take control of Mesopotamia and that, you can then basically become pseudo-controller of that satrapy system. Like what Alexander did, in a way. And like what Antigonus did, and then Seleucus did. And I feel there's too much to do with the Diadochi that it's going to require an entire rework by itself.
Yeah. The winter of Diadochi. That would be nice.
Yeah.
Like, culture is definitely something that fits best with the Diadochi. For all three of the really big ones, Egypt is Macedonian in a majority Kemetic majority Egyptian area. Phrygia has fucking everything within it. Seleucids has both Assyrian, Babylonian, and Zoroastrian style, and they are Macedonian. So it fits so perfectly.
Yeah.
I just hope that they do focus on how the culture rework will work for the Diadochi, and then expand that to being other countries. Like, look at history and see how the Seleucid Empire managed to manage their empire. Because, I mean, the Seleucids were a thing right up until the Romans murdered them.
Yeah.
How did the Seleucids manage their multicultural empire? Add those as mechanics to the game, and then let other countries like Carthage and every other country that's in the game also utilize those mechanics. So if they want to pull a Seleucus and, have a multicultural empire, they can. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I'm going to be very interested to find out.
Yeah, See, this is one thing that does worry me about it, and I know Ahe responded to it, but when they nerfed pop output for Run Culture, not Run Culture Group, but flat out Run Culture by 20%, because they wanted to nerf the Diadochi, and I know he commented underneath, oh yeah, this is like a temporary thing, like we've got something in mind for the culture. If they wanted to nerf the Diadochi and they did that, I'm not confident I'm going to be happy, and I know it's just me, but I just
when
don't know.
When it comes to Diadochi, I don't think anything but 100% historical accuracy and mechanics perfectly aligning. The stars align and the planets are aligned. Blah blah blah. You're not going to be happy otherwise that happens because you're a big fuck off fanboy.
I just don't think the Diadochi need a nerf because they are the superpowers of this age, and they're already glass cannons at the start of the game. With the way revolts work, you take too much aggressive expansion, they're gonna get a revolt. That is another thing I hope they rework. Actually, saying that, I hope revolts aren't a national thing but become a provincial thing, because I'd be far happier if revolts happen more frequently at the provincial level, than on a national level.
Like, for example, when we had the Judean revolt against Rome, Gaul didn't revolt at the same time allied to Judea. It was Judea alone.
Yeah, there should be a system in place where they're unhappy and they're beginning to, get feelings of rebellion. Maybe you get attrition when your army goes through it from like raids or whatever, or you end up, I don't know, you can't have damaged buildings because we don't have a repair building system or any of that in the game, but something like that to simulate the unrest getting up there. You have a load of output in that, and then if your armies are fighting, you've got high war exhaustion or something, or your armies are elsewhere, and they feel like they are ready to revolt, they will revolt. Not because 18% of all of your pops in your nation are disloyal and your threshold is 17.5%. Like, it should be based on the provincial level, and if you've got several provinces around that area that are all unhappy, their individual power base will be higher, and then I would like to see them revolt together, and then after a revolt is finished, like split apart into the different areas or cultures or whatever, to make that feel more threatening. But definitely something where the revolt is either provincial or regional and not national.
I could see that actually being a thing. I could see that actually, making it into the game. That doesn't sound like so much of a wish listy, pie in the sky dream. That seems like a realistic desire. So I could get behind that for sure. That would be quite nice. All right. Well, do you have anything else to talk about? Like, what else do you want? I think we've sort of gone over everything that we want to be in the game. Other than me, who's being very coy about the things I want to make videos on. But is there anything else that you haven't said that you want to?
It's more not like like a certain thing that I want. More as I go back to that, what I said about a civilization, something to do with your civilization building. You know, you're building up your nation. It goes back to what Arheo said. It was Arheo, wasn't he? Who said he doesn't want it to be a map painter, he wants it to be a civilization builder. I want him to take that quote and I want him to fucking run with it. Because this entire age, you know, I don't care about building world conquest. I care about building up your empire, whether it be big or small, doing rapid expansions and then having that fall up. You can't hold on to it. Or rapid expansion and trying to hold on to it and trying to build up your empire. You know, I want to have empires rise and fall, and I want Imperator to go in that direction with the game. I want there to be more... what just been commented in your chat, crises in the game. Like, EU4 has these events, which I think adds a lot to EU4. They have these big events. They have the Burgundian Inheritance, Iberian Wedding, you've got the Dyke War, you've got, you know,
Rebellion, the revolution later in the game.
Revolutions that happen. Yeah, you've got all of these big, so they are quite big events.
Set piece
that happen.
events, yeah.
Yeah, set piece events, and I think this game would go a long way in having them to make it feel lived in. You know, you have the Gauls, well, the Celts kind of come down after the start of the game into Greece, which we have the achievement on. And, you know, ransacking the place. Like, if we had that, if we had Phrygia and the Fourth Diadochi War, I like the events we've got in a minute, but if they go a bit step further...
Oh yeah, there's a lot they
really
could add there.
Yeah, and then you can then take that further into, you know, the Syrian wars. 6 fucking wars over Syria between Egypt and Seleucid Empire because Ptolemy decided he wanted southern Syria. And Seleucus was like, okay, fair enough, I owe you. Keep it. But then his sons and his, you know, descendants were all like, no, we stake this claim, and they had 6 wars over it. Stuff like that I don't want the player to be forced into stuff, but if you're, say, playing Rome, I would like to see the Fourth Diadochi Wars historical outcome, or maybe something ahistorical that decided to do with Phrygia. And
That definitely reminds me of the Burgundian Inheritance, where you might get the exact historical outcome, where Burgundy gets partitioned between France and Austria. Or you may get something completely mental, like Savoy inheriting it. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Definitely some of these set-piece events that happen would add a lot. For sure.
Beating of the hooves. Don't just be an event that tells me that the AI got these client states. Oh shit, Parthia's coming.
Yeah, no,
And
that was
this is
something
where the
that
Seleucid
when I
Empire
first
dies.
started playing, that popped up and I was like, shit, I know of Parthia from when I've been playing Rome Total War. Those are some scary motherfuckers, and I was expecting, right, playing Rome, when I get into around about, you know, the Anatolia region, I'm gonna end up seeing this big fuck off horde empire spreading out, and it's gonna be my end game boss. And what happened was they stayed just here, between the Seleucids, Bactria, never colonized, and nothing happened, and I was immensely disappointed. So yeah, having that as a set-piece event where, I mean, we've got the beginnings of it, where they all, you know, join in together as, you know, the client states. That needs to go further. Yeah, I want that. As it stands, you're never, ever, in any of your games, going to see some Gauls pick themselves up from Tectosagia, which is one of the historical ones that did this, and fuck off to Galatia in Anatolia. That's never going to happen. Ever. You can sometimes see, and I have seen this myself, some Gallic nations pop up there. That might be event-based, but I have no fucking idea where it comes from, how it happened. There's nothing in the game to tell me what this set-piece thing that put some goals over here, what that was. I want to see that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like, you have... Okay, the Cimbri are coming. You know, these Germanic tribes migrating south. Or, you know, you have the Helvetii, you know, 100,000 stinking barbarians come into the gates of Rome. just stuff to make the game feel more alive. These big set piece things, and I would like it if you could toggle them on or off, because I know a lot of people are going to go, well, I don't like that. I don't like being forced into stuff happening, and I can understand that. I say it would be pretty cool to play, and you don't have the inheritance of Phrygia or the Germanic hordes from the north or Parthia pop up. Like, okay, you can play it how it plays now. And if you have that toggle, you could go wild with the amount of historical set pieces you could put into the game.
What I think would change quite a bit is if, for tribes specifically here, if a tribe is beaten in a war and gets fully annexed, instead of no longer existing, there should be a sizable amount of their pops and the remaining armies that turn into a migratory horde that has no land.
Cool.
And they would migrate south, and that would really emulate the feeling of what Rome did when they went into Gaul and they saw, oh, these guys are coming south because they're being pushed here by the Germans. And I will say that I'm not sure how many people have seen this in their recent games, but it's happened in every game I've had since the latest update. These migratory hordes in Germany, they do migrate now. They do pick up their entire populations and fuck off elsewhere. They do colonize quite a lot. So I think strides have been made in that specific area, but I think there's no mechanics right now for a migrating horde forcing another tribe that is settled to migrate. That I think would add a hell of a lot to that specific aspect. And it doesn't need to be a set piece of barbarian invasion.
Oh yeah.
That can be pure mechanics working working the way that they work.
Yeah. And then that kind of ties into what we were talking about for a rework of migratory tribes.
Which I've forgotten completely.
Oh, have you? I'll send you the document after. Yes.
Sure.
That's another thing for in the future of Imperator. What I would like tribes to feel completely different to a civilized nation.
I mean, just the basic layer that you could do to make them different immediately is have a completely different set of building options. Like, if you wanted to do the bare minimum, then in Gergovia, if you wanted to build some buildings, you wouldn't have a training ground, a foundry, a marketplace, a tax office. They would be a completely new set of buildings that only tribes could take. That would immediately make them feel so much different. And I know I've said already I want a buildings rework, so this sort of maybe feels a little bit hypocritical, but just going on making tribes feel different, that would do a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think what my closing thoughts to this little stream that we're doing is Imperator has made huge strides in the right direction. The game has improved massively over the past year, and it's still got a shit ton of potential and a shit ton of areas that can still be improved. And what I'm talking about here is my hopes that they go down the directions where I think they've got the most potential. I'm still very optimistic about the game, and there's also areas that I want them to do a certain thing that I think is probably not going to happen for whatever reason, and that makes me a bit sad. But I'm still positive that they're going to continue to improve the game. What are your closing thoughts about the game then?
It's been a year, and it's definitely come a long way. I think the game would be the amount of people playing the game now and the common perception of the game would be very, very different if it came out in this state. There are a lot of people I know that picked up the game, played it for a few hours, and just never played it again. And I feel like if it was in this state now, that would be different.
Yeah.
It's come a long way. I try not to sound as pessimistic as I would be next to you, but I do think it's still got a long way to go. It's got the basics done right, and it's got it done really well. The 1.2 update was phenomenal. But the game still... It's still got a long way. It still feels flat to me, and a lot of stuff we've talked about, just giving a bit more life to the game would go a long way. They've improved the base mechanics quite a bit, removal of mana and everything, and I honestly... Everybody who worked on that over the summer, I cannot thank them enough. They made Imperator, they brought me back to Imperator, and I just hope they continue to do that good work on it. And yeah, happy birthday, Imperator.
Yeah, for sure. I will respond to one comment there, though. 1.2 should have been in 1.0. We would never have gotten 1.2 without the backlash of 1.0. We're 1.2 is a child of the backlash. It wouldn't exist without it.
Yeah.
So while it would have been fucking awesome if they had this precognition and they knew exactly what people were going to feel about 1.0 and then they delayed it and made 1.2 the release version, that would have been great, but that's a pipe dream that's impossible.
I just wish it was not 1.2 then, but the state of one. Obviously it wasn't going to happen. I just wish it was, because then it would have more of a player base.
Yeah.
More.
I want more people to play this game.
Goodwill about it. And I've had a love-hate relationship with this game since it first came out, so... Depends on what day of the week, depends if I'm going to recommend it to you or not. But it's definitely come a long way, and I can't fault.
I'll say, if you bought it on release and you played it and you didn't like it then, it is definitely worth having another look and just seeing how different the game is. When I made my video about the 10 biggest changes, going back to 1.0 and just seeing the state of it. When it came out, it didn't make me angry in the way that made some people angry. But it is me going back to that now just makes me appreciate the game that we've got now even more. Because it is a vastly different game. And it is vastly better. So, props to the entire Imperator team. You've done a fantastic job. Please continue doing a fantastic job. I have faith in you. All right, I think that's pretty much all we need to say, isn't it?
Yep, I think 3 hours and 20 minutes of rambling.
Is that really been how much it is? Fucking hell.
Well, my stream's been on for 3 hours, and I think it's been about 3 hours and 10, really. But yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you all so very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this ramble. It's been a lot of fun. My throat is now killing me, and I'm going to go to bed. So yeah, thank you all very much for watching.
Thank you guys for watching us ramble yet again without gameplay this time.
Yeah, usually we're playing in the background of this kind of shit. But yeah, this has been fun. So thanks for joining me on this little thing, and also suggesting it, because I'm kind of taking the credit there, aren't I?
Yeah, it's quite funny last night. Do you fancy joining a stream tomorrow? We're talking about Imperator Royal for the 1 year anniversary. Wait, what? What do you mean 1 year?
Yeah, no, I had plans to make the 1 year anniversary video for like 3 months. It completely slipped my mind. You said that to me last night, and I'm like, fuck. Gotta write a script. Got it done. Yeah. Finished recording by about 4:30 in the morning, and then edited it all this morning to upload today. It was a pretty hectic night for me last night. It was great, though.
Yeah, I saw you in the Discord.
Anyway, thank you everyone so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it, and I will see you next time for whatever the next time ends up being.
Imperator, Tuesday. Oh no, Stellaris Sunday.
Stellaris Monday,
Monday.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right.
16.
Also, there's going to be the Dev Diary video on Monday. And I'm looking forward to that. First look at Menander. It's going to be great, hopefully. All right. See you later, guys.